Unveiling the veiled chapters of history, civilizations consigned to oblivion. There exist profound enigmas that history, in its deliberate crafting, seeks to conceal. Once, magnificent civilizations graced this earth, commanding the awe and wonder of the entire world. Yet, in a perplexing turn of events, their very names have been meticulously expunged from the annals of written record. Ancient manuscripts, once vibrant with knowledge, were consigned to the shadows of infernos. Libraries, repositories of wisdom far surpassing their epochs, were tragically reduced to dust and ash. And countless books, deemed too perilous for the world to grasp, were not forbidden for their inaccuracies, but for the dangerous truths they meticulously held. Today, as we embark on this illuminating journey with bedtime history, we shall daringly unlock the tightly sealed gateways of the past. Our quest is to unearth the hidden civilizations, whispered about only in forbidden tomes. This expedition promises a traverse through intricate conspiracies, audacious power plays, and profound secrets that, until this very moment, no one has dared to unveil to you. Atlantis, a submerged enigma and the Church's iron grip. When the whispers turn to forgotten civilizations, no name evokes more fervent debate or haunting contemplation than Atlantis. Was it a sprawling metropolis, a vast empire, or merely a profound philosophical allegory? This impassioned debate has echoed through the corridors of time for over 2 millennia. Yet, what remains largely unrecognized is this startling truth: the very narrative of Atlantis itself was, for centuries, relegated to the forbidden knowledge lists across Europe. This wasn't solely due to the story's inherent content, but rather its far-reaching implications, truths capable of shaking the very bedrock of Western historical understanding. The genesis of the Atlantis saga can be traced to 2 seminal dialogues penned by Plato. Timaeus and Critias, crafted around 360 BC. Within these profound works, Plato meticulously recounts a tale, passed down through his ancestral lineage, initially imparted by the esteemed philosopher Solon following his sojourn in Egypt. Egyptian priests, guardians of ancient wisdom, revealed a staggering revelation. Some 9,000 years prior to Plato's era, a colossal continent lay beyond the Pillars of Hercules, now recognized as the Strait of Gibraltar. This land was the revered cradle of a civilization so affluent and formidable that it eclipsed all others. Atlantis, as the legend describes, commanded a formidable naval armada, boasted magnificent palaces, intricate canal systems, and technological marvels that left the ancient world in utter astonishment. However, consumed by insatiable greed and hubris, the Atlanteans audaciously dared to defy the gods. In a single, cataclysmic night, violent earthquakes and relentless tsunamis dragged the entire continent into the watery abyss, forever altering the face of the earth. So, why would such a compelling narrative face prohibition? To unravel this mystery, we must immerse ourselves in the intricate tapestry of medieval European thought. While Plato himself envisioned Atlantis as a philosophical device to illustrate the inevitable decline of societies, later scholars began to ponder a more audacious possibility. What if it transcended mere metaphor? What if Atlantis had truly existed as a prehistoric civilization, one that had achieved a level of advancement far exceeding even the glories of Greece or Rome? This tantalizing prospect rendered any treatise on Atlantis profoundly sensitive. In an era where the formidable Catholic Church held an unyielding grip on intellectual discourse, the very notion of a civilization predating the biblical timeline was deemed utterly unacceptable. According to the tenets of creation, human history encompassed a mere few thousand years, commencing with Adam and Eve. The existence of a powerful empire flourishing 9,000 years before Plato's time would irrevocably shatter this established framework, posing a dangerous and existential threat to deeply entrenched religious teachings. Consequently, from the 12th century onward, translations and commentaries on Timaeus and Critias that dared to mention Atlantis were subjected to rigorous censorship. In the vibrant intellectual centers of Italy and Spain, Several publishers who dared to print works concerning Atlantis faced severe suppression at the hands of zealous church authorities. Certain ancient manuscripts housed within the Venerable Vatican Library bear unambiguous annotations. De Atlantis non licet discerere. It is not permitted to discuss Atlantis. Yet, as the Renaissance dawned, ushering in an era of intellectual awakening, new ideas began to stir. Secret maps, once relegated to obscurity, reignited a fervent interest in the lost continent. The illustrious cartographer Gerardus Mercator, renowned for his revolutionary mapmaking, included cryptic notes on his maps of Europe, subtly alluding to a lost land nestled within the Atlantic. Abraham Ortelius, widely regarded as the father of modern cartography, penned similar annotations, speaking of vanished continents he firmly believed once graced the earth. But perhaps the most electrifying piece of evidence emerged from an entirely unexpected source, the Piri-Reis map of 1513. This Ottoman map, meticulously drawn on gazelle skin, astoundingly depicted the coastline of South America and even southern regions that European explorers had not yet charted. What is truly astonishing is the portion of Antarctica showcased on the Piri-Reis map, which astonishingly displays an ice-free coastline, a condition that could only have existed thousands of years ago during a significantly warmer climatic period. Some alternative scholars passionately contend that this map was predicated on sources far older, possibly even originating from the very era of Atlantis itself. Adding to the profound mystique, numerous folk legends from the Azores, the Canary Islands, and even the distant Americas speak of a grand land that, in a distant past, sank beneath the relentless waves of the sea. In the sun-drenched Bahamas, local traditions still recount the evocative tale of the Beach of the Gods, a sacred site where ancient ruins, tantalizingly, sometimes emerge when the tides gracefully recede. And here lies the central question: why does a legend as pervasive as Atlantis endure with such unyielding strength? Permeating countless cultures that had no direct interaction with Greek philosophical thought? Could it be that the profound memory of a lost civilization is, in some ineffable manner, preserved within the collective subconscious of humanity itself? Today, intrepid archaeologists continue to unearth curious structures on the floor of the Atlantic Ocean, stretching from the enigmatic Bimini Road to regions off the sun-kissed coast of Spain. These discoveries lend further intrigue and weight to the compelling Atlantis hypothesis. While mainstream science largely maintains a skeptical stance, these burgeoning findings are undeniably potent enough to ignite new, profound questions. Were the forbidden books of a forgotten past concealing truths that we are, even now, not entirely prepared to confront? And if the very existence of Atlantis was so meticulously suppressed, how many other civilizations have been systematically expunged from official history, simply because their undeniable reality threatened the established paradigms of the world? The answers to these questions may lead us down pathways far more astonishing and unpredictable than we could ever conceive in the remarkable journey that lies ahead. Lemuria, a biological hypothesis embraced by the occult. While Atlantis has ascended to the status of a global emblem, resonating from profound philosophy to vibrant pop culture, Lemuria remains a narrative far fewer individuals are acquainted with. Its name is often whispered only within the hallowed halls of small academic enclaves or within the cryptic pages of obscure manuscripts that very few have ever had the privilege to touch. And perhaps for this very reason, the intricate details of Lemuria are even more susceptible to being forgotten, or, more disturbingly, intentionally erased from the sanctioned currents of official history. What makes the concept of Lemuria truly fascinating is that its genesis was not as a mythical tale, but rather as a profound biological inquiry. In the mid-19th century, naturalists found themselves confronting a peculiar paradox. Lemurs, a species intrinsically native to Madagascar, possessed fossilized relatives discovered in both Africa and India. Yet, strikingly, they were entirely absent from the vast regions situated between these two landmasses, such as East Africa. To account for this perplexing distribution, the esteemed British zoologist Philip Sclater, in an audacious article published in the Quarterly Journal of Science in 1864, proposed a bold hypothesis. He posited the existence of a colossal landmass, which he christened Lemuria, that had once spanned the Indian Ocean, connecting Madagascar and India. This submerged continent, he argued, served as an ancient land bridge, facilitating the migration of these unique species before its eventual submergence beneath the sea. Although initially a geological theory, later invalidated by the modern paradigm of plate tectonics, the evocative name, Lemuria, swiftly captivated the imagination of the burgeoning occult world. By the twilight of the 19th century, Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, the visionary founder of the Theosophical Society, drew profound inspiration from this concept to construct a far more expansive and intricate doctrine. She asserted that Lemuria was not merely an ancient continent, but had been the illustrious cradle of an extraordinarily advanced prehistoric civilization, dating back more than 50,000 years, an epoch long predating universally accepted civilizations such as Sumer or ancient Egypt. According to Blavatsky's intricate cosmology, the Lemurians were a race of colossal beings, endowed with highly developed spiritual powers, possessing an understanding of energy, architecture, and the cosmos that far surpassed contemporary human comprehension. She cited ancient Eastern manuscripts, particularly those safeguarded within Tibetan monasteries, as the wellsprings of her profound insights. This reliance on obscure sources rendered her writings, especially The Secret Doctrine, 1888, a prime target for zealous censorship campaigns. In late 19th century Europe, as the occult movement surged with unprecedented vigor, many staunchly conservative Christian nations, including France, Spain, and Portugal, formally placed Blavatsky's works on their lists of banned books. The rationale behind this prohibition was not solely the mystical content, but the undeniable fact that her doctrines implicitly challenged the biblical model of creation by referencing pre-Adamic races and civilizations, beings that supposedly existed before Adam, as recounted in the Bible. It is noteworthy that many ancient Eastern manuscripts cited by Blavatsky also contain intriguing echoes of a lost land in the southern reaches of India. Ancient Tamil texts speak reverently of Kumari Kingdom, a vast and mythical continent that once formed a land bridge between southern India, Madagascar, and Australia, now forever swallowed by the sea. Tamil epics such as Silapadikaram and Manameklai narrate tales of ancient kingdoms tragically lost beneath the waves, along with the faded memories of sophisticated sciences. Some modern scholars cautiously suggest that Kumari Kingdom and Lemuria may simply be two distinct names for the same pervasive myth, or perhaps two cultural reflections of an actual historical reality, long distorted by the relentless march of time. This intriguing possibility has gained considerable traction in recent decades as meticulous surveys of the Indian Ocean seafloor have unveiled unexpected geological formations. In 2013, a team of pioneering Indian geologists made a remarkable discovery: granite blocks resting deep beneath ocean sediments near the Seychelles. Granite, crucially, is a rock type that forms on land, not on the abyssal ocean floor. This compelling finding strongly suggests that fragments of an ancient continental mass may indeed lie submerged in that region, remnants of a land irrevocably torn apart by titanic tectonic shifts. Off the coast of Tamil Nadu, in the vicinity of Mahabalipuram, intrepid divers have also uncovered submerged stone structures, widely believed to be the ruins of ancient temples, submerged after a colossal tsunami. Local legends have long spoken of the 7 pagodas, of which only one majestically remains above water today, while the other 6 are said to have mysteriously vanished beneath the sea. So, could Lemuria truly have existed as a sprawling continent? And if so, precisely how advanced was its civilization that later powers might have deliberately sought to erase it from the collective memory of humankind? A provocative theory was put forth in the early 20th century by the researcher William Scott Elliott, drawing upon materials from the Theosophical Society. He proposed that Lemuria had once been the primordial birthplace of profound knowledge, a legacy later partially inherited by ancient civilizations such as Egypt and India. If such knowledge were ever fully acknowledged, it would compel us to fundamentally rewrite the entirety of human history. Recognizing that many achievements we attribute to so-called enlightened civilizations, like Greece and Rome, may, in fact, be mere faint echoes of what came before. Perhaps for this very reason, deeper manuscripts concerning Lemuria were never widely circulated. Indeed, within the sacred archives of the Vatican, according to researchers such as Father Malachi Martin, who once had rare access, there are rumored to be translations of Eastern texts describing a continent of the gods. However, these invaluable translations lie entombed deep within the restricted chambers of the archive, where only a privileged few are ever permitted to enter. Lemuria, much like Atlantis, continues to hover at the blurred frontier of legend and verified history. But as an increasing volume of geological and archaeological evidence comes to light, perhaps one day this once forbidden name will be reinstated to the official pages of human history. And if Lemuria truly did exist, we must ask ourselves, how many other civilizations, whose legacies once profoundly shaped this planet, have been deliberately expunged from our collective memory? The answer to this haunting question will continue to guide us on this extraordinary journey into the deepest, most hidden secrets of history. Mu, the Pacific's vanished cradle of civilization. After the tumultuous waves of speculation surrounding Atlantis and Lemuria had begun to recede, yet another name, even more obscure and with fewer tangible traces of evidence, emerged from the hidden recesses of forbidden manuscripts. Mu. Not everyone has encountered this name, and even fewer dare to challenge its elusive existence. For among all the lost civilizations, Mu is perhaps the one most vehemently denied, not only by the bastions of mainstream academia but also by the powerful forces that rigorously control access to knowledge. The compelling narrative of Mu begins in the late 19th century when the intrepid French explorer and researcher Auguste Le Plongeon, while meticulously studying ancient Mayan inscriptions in Yucatan, Mexico, boldly claimed to have deciphered symbols that spoke of a lost continent named Mu. According to his translations, Mu had once stood majestically at the very heart of the Pacific Ocean, serving as the primordial cradle of a grand civilization tens of thousands of years ago. Le Plongeon firmly believed that the Maya people were the direct descendants of refugees who had fled from Mu after the continent's cataclysmic destruction by profound geological upheavals. He subsequently published his groundbreaking findings in a series of articles and books. However, instead of being embraced by the scholarly community, his work was met with derision and mockery from European and American scholars, excluded from prestigious libraries, and in some instances, even outright banned from university curricula. But the story of Mu did not conclude there. In the early 20th century, the British Army officer and researcher James Churchward, while stationed in India, was granted extraordinary access by a senior monk from a secret order to a set of ancient tablets, which he reverently referred to as the Nakal tablets. According to Churchward, these tablets contained the meticulously preserved records of a super-advanced civilization that had once flourished on the continent of Mu, a colossal landmass situated in the vast expanse of the Pacific, spanning millions of square kilometers, and intricately connecting Asia to the Americas through chains of islands. Churchward asserted that the civilization of Mu had attained unparalleled heights of science, art, and spirituality, unmatched by any subsequent civilization. The people of Mu, he claimed, possessed a profound understanding of the cosmic laws of energy, constructed colossal structures without the aid of mechanical tools, and developed a universal language and a vast body of knowledge, fragments of which were later inherited by ancient civilizations such as Egypt, Mesopotamia, and India. Churchward proceeded to publish a compelling series of books about Mu, commencing with The Lost Continent of Mu in 1926. However, in a familiar pattern observed with Atlantis and Lemuria, his work was swiftly and vehemently attacked by the entrenched academic establishment. Scholarly bodies in both Britain and the United States issued formal recommendations that Churchward's books be expressly excluded from curricula and academic libraries. Some European publishers even outright refused to distribute his works after facing intense pressure from groups demonstrably linked to the Church. The reasons for this fervent opposition were not purely rooted in scientific skepticism. A deeper, more unsettling concern lay beneath the surface. If Mu had truly existed, then the entire prevailing narrative of human migration and the subsequent development of civilizations across Asia, the Americas, and Oceania would necessitate a complete and fundamental reevaluation. Trans-Pacific connections, long vehemently denied by traditional migration theories, would be compelled to be acknowledged. This posed a formidable threat to many long-held theories of social evolution and the associated political narratives that were inextricably linked to them. What rendered the story of Mu even more profoundly intriguing was the unexpected emergence of tantalizing evidence. From the colossal stone statues of Polynesia on Easter Island, which Churchward confidently identified as remnants of Mu, to the architectural and linguistic patterns exhibiting startling similarities between cultures separated by thousands of kilometers across the vast Pacific. For instance, researchers such as Thor Heyerdahl meticulously highlighted remarkable parallels in boat-building techniques and artistic traditions between Polynesian and South American cultures, similarities to S. Pacific and compelling to be dismissed as mere coincidence. Moreover, linguistic studies have unveiled surprising connections between the languages of various Pacific island groups and ancient tongues of Asia. One question frequently arises: how did the Polynesians, who seemingly lacked large ship technology, manage to undertake migrations across such immense oceanic distances between scattered Pacific islands? Could they, in fact, have been the direct descendants of much older, far more advanced seafaring civilizations? Further adding to the profound mystery, off the coast of Japan's Yonaguni Island, divers have uncovered massive submerged stone structures, terraces, columns, and walls that unequivocally appear to have been shaped by human hands. While mainstream archaeologists contend that these may be natural geological formations, many independent researchers firmly believe they represent the undeniable remains of a prehistoric civilization, potentially linked to Mu. So, why has Mu been so forcefully expunged from historical discourse? One highly probable reason is that its very existence fundamentally undermines the narrative of Western-centric history, a narrative that unequivocally places Europe at the zenith of intellectual development. Acknowledging the profound possibility of a highly advanced prehistoric civilization flourishing in the Asia-Pacific region would irrevocably erode the primacy of Western historical claims. Yet, despite the pervasive opposition, Mu continues to persist vibrantly in the rich oral traditions of many Pacific peoples. The Hawaiians, for instance, narrate tales of Kanaloanamoku, a sacred land of the gods now tragically swallowed by the sea. The Maori speak of Hawaii, an ancient homeland their ancestors departed from in search of new and fertile lands. Whether these are literal historical accounts or evocative symbolic echoes, they leave tantalizing traces of something that once profoundly was. Today, advancements in oceanography, underwater archaeology, and meticulous studies of prehistoric sea level changes continue to yield new and compelling clues. With every ancient structure unearthed beneath the waves, the perplexing question of Mu resurfaces once more. Perhaps Mu is nothing more than an elusive illusion, but perhaps it represents the critical missing piece in humanity's grand narrative. A truth that certain powerful entities have actively sought to conceal for over a century. And if Mu did indeed exist, then we have merely begun to scratch the surface of an ancient, global network of civilizations, a network that, when fully revealed, could forever transform how we comprehend our very selves. Hyperborea, the Arctic's cradle of forgotten knowledge. If Atlantis was a resplendent golden city tragically interred beneath the Atlantic, and Lemuria and Mu were colossal lost continents submerged beneath vast and indifferent oceans, then Hyperborea, the next enigmatic name on our extraordinary journey, is intrinsically linked to the far northern reaches of our planet. A fabled land where the sun never truly sets, and where ancient knowledge is said to still flow quietly through the hidden, pulsating veins of history. For centuries, Hyperborea has existed precariously at the blurred boundary between profound myth and verifiable history. Often summarily dismissed as mere fantasy by official accounts, yet strangely persisting with an uncanny resilience across a multitude of diverse cultures. What renders it even more truly remarkable is that this name did not solely appear within a singular tradition, but rather resonated profoundly through multiple civilizations. From the profound wisdom of ancient Greece to the epic sagas of Norse legends, and even within mystical manuscripts meticulously hidden away for countless centuries. The very origins of the name Hyperborea can be meticulously traced back to the celebrated writings of Herodotus, Pindar, and most notably, the evocative poetry and epic tales of ancient Greece. According to these venerable accounts, Hyperborea was a land situated far to the north, beyond the mysterious realms of the Scythians, where the Hyperboreans dwelled in perpetual and serene peace. There, the sun shone both day and night during the extended summer months, illuminating a land that was verdant and bountiful. Its inhabitants enjoyed exceptionally long lives, untouched by the ravages of war or disease. Initially, scholars interpreted this as a mere symbolic construct, an idealized land born from the fertile Greek imagination. However, over the inexorable march of time, as ancient maps were painstakingly rediscovered, researchers began to observe a striking anomaly. Many medieval and Renaissance cartographers had unequivocally depicted Hyperborea as an actual, verifiable geographical location. Gerardus Mercator's iconic 1569 map, for instance, distinctly portrays 4 islands encircling a colossal whirlpool at the North Pole, explicitly labeled as Terra Hyperborea. The narrative of Hyperborea did not cease there. In 17th and 18th century Europe, theologians and mystics alike began to reference Hyperborea with deeper, more unsettling implications. In certain rare manuscripts, curiously listed among the Vatican's forbidden texts, Hyperborea was described as the primordial cradle of a prehistoric civilization that had once wielded immense influence across diverse Eurasian cultures. According to these obscure sources, the Hyperboreans possessed not only an advanced understanding of astronomy and geography but also a profound grasp of spiritual energies and cosmic laws that we are, in our modern era, only just beginning to comprehend. One of the most controversial works delving into this subject is Arctos, the Polar Myth by Jocelyn Godwin. Drawing extensively from ancient documents, Godwin posited that the belief in a Hyperborean civilization had once permeated widely through Europe's secret societies. From the enigmatic Rosicrucians to the revered Freemasons and other profound esoteric movements. For this very reason, books that dared to discuss Hyperborea were, at one time, rigorously censored within European libraries. What truly discomfits political and academic circles about Hyperborea is not merely its mystical essence. The problem lies far deeper. If a civilization once thrived in the remote far north, one that had achieved a high degree of advancement in prehistoric times, then the linear model of human progress, exclusively emanating from southern cultures, begins to unravel and collapse. Hyperborea suggests the startling possibility that a parallel branch of human development, perhaps even more sophisticated, may once have existed and subsequently been relegated to the forgotten annals of history. Another significant factor contributing to the sensitivity surrounding Hyperborea is its unsettling entanglement with dangerous racial and ideological theories during the 20th century. Unorthodox scholars such as Guido von List and certain German mystical groups audaciously claimed Hyperborea as the original homeland of the Aryan race, a claim that tragically fueled highly politicized extremist ideologies. Consequently, after the devastation of World War II, many studies concerning Hyperborea were either outright banned or classified as sensitive, not purely for academic considerations, but due to their inherent potential to incite further extremism. Yet, if we painstakingly strip away these burdensome ideological layers, the lingering traces of Hyperborea remain profoundly compelling. Norse mythology, from the epic tales of Asgard to the profound wisdom of the Sami peoples of the Arctic, speaks of lands in the remote far north that were once vibrant centers of unparalleled knowledge and immense power. In Norse legend, Asgard, the celestial abode of the gods, is vividly described as a polar realm intricately connected to the vast cosmos by the colossal world tree, Yggdrasil. Modern researchers have diligently sought geographical evidence to substantiate the existence of Hyperborea. Studies of ancient Arctic sediments conclusively reveal that the polar regions once experienced significantly warmer climates during prehistoric periods, capable of sustaining lush forests and diverse animal life, conditions unimaginable in today's perpetually frozen environment. This compelling evidence raises a fundamental question. Was there indeed a time when the far north could have supported advanced human life and perhaps even a thriving civilization? Furthermore, archaeological discoveries in Russia's Kola Peninsula, where mysterious ancient stone structures meticulously aligned with astronomical patterns have been unearthed, strongly suggest that the memories of Hyperborea may not be entirely fictional constructs. Nevertheless, perhaps the most profound reason why Hyperborea was systematically expunged from official historical accounts lies elsewhere. It symbolizes a civilization not forged upon the crude pillars of material power or ruthless domination, but rather upon the profound foundations of knowledge and an inherent harmony with the natural world. A societal model that, in the prevailing modern world, is often perceived as impractical and even perilous, precisely because it directly challenges existing structures of authority and control. And so, Hyperborea continues to flow quietly beneath the surface, through the cryptic pages of ancient manuscripts, the veiled rituals of secret societies, and the hushed whispers of enduring legends. A fragment of its truth may still remain concealed, but the radiant light of Hyperborea, a fabled land where profound knowledge and spiritual wisdom once reigned supreme, patiently awaits the day when it may once again be fully revealed to humanity. Kumari Kandam, the lost cradle of Tamil civilization. The narrative of lost civilizations is far from confined to the intriguing Greek legends or the intricate ancient European maps. In the profound and ancient East, too, faint, persistent memories endure of brilliant lands tragically swallowed by the insatiable sea. One of the most enigmatic of these is the profound legend of Kumari Kandam, a magnificent continent said to have once connected southern India with Madagascar, stretching far across the Indian Ocean all the way towards distant Australia. And much like Atlantis, Lemuria, or Hyperborea, the very name Kumari Kandam has long been summarily dismissed as mere superstition, with countless documents pertaining to it being banned or rigorously censored for centuries. What renders Kumari Kandam particularly captivating is that its compelling narrative was not conceived by Western scholars. It emanates directly from the ancient epics, venerable manuscripts, and rich oral traditions of the Tamil people, one of the world's oldest and most enduring cultures. In Silapadikaram and Manamaklai, two celebrated Tamil epics dating back to the first millennium CE, detailed accounts meticulously describe a vast land situated to the south of India that now lies tragically submerged beneath the ocean. According to ancient Tamil texts, Kumari Kandam was once the very heart of ancient Tamil civilization, serving as a vibrant center of unparalleled knowledge, exquisite art, rich language, and profound philosophy at its zenith. Tamil tradition steadfastly holds that three distinguished Tamil literary assemblies, known as Sangams, were once graciously hosted in this fabled land for thousands of years. According to enduring legend, two of these three Sangams were tragically lost when the relentless sea rose and engulfed the land. During the 19th and 20th centuries, dedicated Tamil scholars such as U.V. Swaminatha Iyer and Marimalai Adigal devoted countless years to painstakingly reconstructing ancient texts that made explicit reference to Kumari Kandam. However, during the oppressive era of British colonial rule, references to Kumari Kandam were systematically suppressed within academic circles. This deliberate suppression occurred because colonial authorities actively sought to discourage the profound idea that a great South Indian civilization might have once flourished, perhaps even predating the northern Aryan cultures. The very notion of an ancient Tamil civilization wielding deep and widespread influence would have fundamentally undermined the colonial narratives meticulously designed to legitimize foreign rule. In the 20th century, as the Tamil cultural renaissance gained irresistible momentum, Tamil activists and intellectuals began to boldly reclaim Kumari Kandam as an essential and intrinsic part of their cultural identity. But they soon encountered fervent resistance, not only from within the mainstream Indian historical community but also from influential Western academics. Some scholarly papers on Kumari Kandam were summarily rejected by international journals on the grounds that they supposedly lacked a scientific basis, even as accumulating archaeological and geological evidence increasingly supported the profound possibility of such a land's existence. One compelling line of evidence emanates from meticulous studies of ancient sea levels. Geologists surveying the continental shelf off the coast of Tamil Nadu have discovered undeniable traces of ancient river channels and submerged plains now lying far beneath the sea. Bathymetric maps, created through advanced sonar technology, clearly reveal vast land areas that once proudly stood above water but now lie hundreds of meters beneath the unforgiving ocean. A significant study conducted by India's National Institute of Oceanography indicates that sea levels rose by approximately 100 meters after the last ice age, a rise sufficient to submerge vast coastal regions. Further compelling support is derived from archaeological finds at Mahabalipuram, which remarkably align with ancient legends of sunken temples. According to local tradition, the ancient city of Mahabalipuram once boasted 7 magnificent temples, of which only one, the Shore Temple, remains proudly above ground today. In 2004, when the devastating Indian Ocean tsunami struck, the receding waters momentarily unveiled massive submerged stone structures, precisely as the ancient stories had vividly described. A subsequent meticulous survey conducted by the Archaeological Survey of India unequivocally confirmed the presence of man-made structures beneath the sea. In the realm of linguistic studies, scholars like Camille have highlighted that the Tamil language contains numerous ancient maritime terms that may originate from a deeper seafaring culture we do not yet fully comprehend. Certain words related to navigation, fishing, and the sea possess linguistic roots that strongly suggest the Tamil people maintained a profound maritime tradition extending back thousands of years, entirely consistent with the compelling idea of a prehistoric island civilization. What renders Kumari Kandam so dangerous, in the eyes of those who seek to control historical narratives, is not merely the tantalizing possibility that a lost land once existed, but its deeper, more profound implications. If ancient Tamil civilization had once been centered in a great and advanced land, then the entire prevailing theory of an Aryan invasion, bringing civilization to India, would need to be critically reconsidered. And this reconsideration could fundamentally reshape how Indians perceive their own history, a prospect neither colonial rulers nor conservative forces have ever desired. To this very day, mainstream academia remains overtly cautious about Kumari Kandam, even as archaeological and geological evidence steadily accumulates. The term Kumari Kandam rarely appears in official scholarly works. Serious research papers on the topic often employ more neutral phrases, such as ancient Tamil maritime civilization, to meticulously avoid being labeled unscientific, and thus dismissed. Yet, in the collective memory of millions of Tamil people, Kumari Kandam remains vividly alive, not merely as a fading legend but as a vital and integral part of their cultural identity. And as the sea continues to relentlessly unveil its long-held secrets, perhaps one day the world will be compelled to acknowledge that beneath the waves of the Indian Ocean once thrived a magnificent civilization that history has long sought to forget. Tartaria, the vanished empire of Asia. If the narratives of Atlantis, Lemuria, Hyperborea, or Kumari Kandam still hover intriguingly between the nebulous realms of legend and the tangible world of archaeology. Then the compelling story of Tartaria, or the Tartary Empire, presents a distinctly different and far sharper challenge. This time, the undeniable traces were not buried beneath the ocean's depths. They once stood clearly delineated on maps, prominently displayed in European books, and ingrained within the collective awareness of generations of Western scholars. Then, with startling abruptness, within less than 2 centuries, the name Tartaria simply vanished from world maps, from history textbooks, as if it had never existed at all. What, then, truly transpired? To grasp the full scope of this perplexing story, we must journey back to the period spanning the 16th to the early 19th centuries. On numerous old European maps, particularly those meticulously crafted by esteemed cartographers such as Abraham Ortelius, Gerardus Mercator, and Joan Blau, the name Tartaria, or Grand Tartary, appears prominently, encompassing vast regions of northern and eastern Asia. This expansive territory stretched from the Ural Mountains, extending across Siberia to the Pacific Ocean, and included Manchuria, Mongolia, and even territories that are now integral parts of Kazakhstan and much of modern Russia. In contemporary European geography books of that era, Tartaria was consistently described as a land shrouded in mystery, home to diverse nomadic peoples, ancient and venerable cities, powerful and influential rulers, and intricate, far-reaching trade networks. Some maps even meticulously illustrated grand architectural structures, from opulent palaces to strange and intriguing towers, scattered across this immense land. Yet, by the late 19th century, the very term, Tartaria, had almost entirely disappeared from official maps. The lands once collectively grouped under this historical name were now meticulously subdivided under new geographic concepts: Siberia, brought under Russian control; Manchuria, influenced by China; Mongolia, either asserting its independence or succumbing to domination; and Central Asia, reconfigured by modern national borders. Concurrently, European history and geography textbooks systematically removed or significantly minimized any mentions of Tartaria, dismissing it as an outdated and inherently inaccurate term. This abrupt and almost spectral disappearance, like smoke dissipating from the grand canvas of history, has ignited a myriad of profound questions among independent researchers. If Tartaria had been merely a mistaken Western label applied to nomadic tribes, then why was the name employed with such unwavering consistency for over 3 centuries? And if the region was truly nothing more than empty steppes, why do so many ancient documents and maps depict thriving cities, bustling trade routes, and even sophisticated centers of learning? A key argument in this compelling debate arises from the meticulous analysis of old maps. Researchers such as Anatoly Fomenko and numerous unorthodox historians emphatically point out that Mercator's 1595 map unequivocally depicts Tartaria with a multitude of clearly structured cities and intricate symbols, undeniably indicating a high level of societal development. Similarly, in early 17th century works by the British geographer John Speed, Grand Tartary is portrayed as a sprawling empire possessing complex political and social structures, far from merely a land populated by wandering tribes. Moreover, many 18th century European engravings and illustrations vividly depict architectural structures in Siberia and Central Asia with distinct and unique styles, demonstrably different from the prevailing Russian or Chinese architecture of that period. Even more strikingly, some ancient buildings still standing in Siberia, Kazakhstan, and Uzbekistan bear the indelible marks of advanced construction techniques that far surpass what nomadic communities would typically be capable of producing. Even more profoundly intriguing are the references found within secret European society documents, particularly within certain theosophical manuscripts and 19th century Russian mystical writings. These texts describe Tartaria as an ancient civilization that once meticulously preserved advanced knowledge of energy, meteorology, and even sophisticated construction technologies. Some legends even suggest that the so-called lightning towers Large tower-like structures once commonly seen in Russian cities may be the enigmatic remnants of this forgotten civilization. But how could such a civilization be so utterly and completely erased from the annals of history? One compelling theory points directly to the decisive role played by the Russian Empire and its relentless territorial expansion during the 18th and 19th centuries. As Russia systematically conquered Siberia and Central Asia, consolidating these vast lands under a unified Russian identity became a paramount strategic objective. Acknowledging that an independent, advanced civilization like Tartaria had once flourished there would have unequivocally undermined the legitimacy of Russian annexation and its subsequent assimilation efforts. It is no mere coincidence that following major Russian military campaigns, references to Tartaria were systematically and deliberately removed. New maps issued by the Russian state entirely eliminated the term Tartaria, replacing it with Russian place names or more neutral geographic terminology. Simultaneously, history textbooks meticulously reframed Grand Tartary as merely lands inhabited by savage tribes, stripping away any lingering suggestion of a once flourishing civilization. This concerted effort was not confined solely to Russia. In Europe, amidst the burgeoning rise of colonialism and the pervasive narrative of Western superiority, acknowledging a vast and sophisticated civilization nestled deep within Asia was deemed profoundly inconvenient. Western historians gradually redirected their focus to subjects that fit more neatly within the Eurocentric historical model, allowing Tartaria to slowly fade from academic discourse. By the mid-20th century, Tartaria was little more than a faint footnote in history books, if it was mentioned at all. An empire that had once appeared on world maps for centuries, boasting great cities, expansive trade networks, and complex governance, had seemingly vanished without a trace. Today, profound questions regarding Tartaria persistently linger. Independent research communities, unorthodox archaeologists, and thousands of dedicated amateur scholars worldwide continue their relentless search for clues. Each discovery, a strange architectural structure unearthed in Siberia, an uncatalogued ancient map, a forgotten line inscribed in an old manuscript, may add one more crucial piece to the intricate puzzle of Tartaria. And when we reflect upon the systematic erasure of this name from official history, perhaps the most paramount question is not merely whether Tartaria truly existed, but why certain powerful forces worked with such extraordinary determination to eradicate the memory of a civilization that may once have been truly great. If Tartaria vividly illustrated an empire that left its undeniable traces on maps only to be brutally expunged from history, then Scythia emerges as one of the least understood civilizations of the ancient world. A name familiar to historians? Yet what truly lies beneath its surface remains perpetually shrouded in thick layers of profound mystery. Scythia, the enigmatic nomads and their hidden legacy. In ancient records, the Scythians are often vividly portrayed as fearsome nomadic warriors, sweeping majestically across the vast Eurasian steppes. But few truly grasp that their civilization, rich in culture, profound art, and deep knowledge, once commanded immense respect from mighty empires like Persia and Greece. And like many other forgotten civilizations, much of the memory of Scythia has been either distorted or deliberately diminished within official historical accounts. The earliest known sources providing insights into Scythia originate from the celebrated Greek historian Herodotus, who embarked on journeys through Scythian lands in the 5th century BC. In his seminal Histories, Herodotus meticulously describes a fierce, horse-riding people who lived freely on the immense steppes without the confines of permanent fortresses, yet possessed an extraordinary mastery of gold craftsmanship. He wrote of their cavalry, unmatched in battle, capable of fighting tirelessly for days on horseback. Yet, intricately woven through his detailed military accounts, Herodotus also recorded surprising and profound details about the Scythians' spiritual life, their elaborate rituals, their finely crafted religious artifacts, and their mysterious and profound connections with ancient northern gods. What continues to perplex modern archaeologists, and historians is the immense wealth of art and profound knowledge the Scythians left behind. This remarkable legacy stands in stark contrast to the simplistic image of barbarian horsemen, often promoted in Roman and medieval accounts. Since the 18th century, when the first Scythian burial mounds were meticulously excavated in the Altai region, archaeologists have been consistently astonished by the intricate gold treasures unearthed. These artifacts exhibit a breathtaking blend of animal motifs, mythological figures, and metallurgical techniques of extraordinary sophistication. Among the most striking discoveries are the Pazyryk burial mounds, which remarkably preserved exquisitely carved wooden chariots, the world's oldest surviving woven carpets, and human remains bearing complex tattoos of animal symbols imbued with profound spiritual significance. Detailed analysis of these intricate tattoos reveals a rich and complex symbolic system, intrinsically connected to cosmology and deeply rooted spiritual beliefs. Yet, the greater and more enduring mystery lies in the perplexing disappearance of the Scythians from the discernible currents of history. After dominating the vast Eurasian steppes from the 8th to the 3rd century BC, Scythia appears to vanish from official historical records. Successor groups, such as the Sarmatians and the Huns, are often described as new waves of migration, while any cultural links to the ancient Scythians are deliberately blurred or outright denied. Independent researchers passionately argue that many cultural elements, from decorative arts and horse-riding techniques to the intricate funeral rites of later steppe peoples, bear the undeniable and strong imprint of Scythian traditions. A bold and compelling hypothesis suggests that rather than simply disappearing, the Scythians gradually assimilated into other cultures, meticulously preserving their profound knowledge and exquisite artistry within hidden layers of cultural transmission. Adding further weight to this theory, many medieval maps still explicitly mark Scythia as a distinct region north of the Black Sea and extending across Central Asia, indicating that in the minds of European geographers of that era, the name had never truly disappeared. It was only with the inexorable rise of modern nationalism and the subsequent redefinition of European ethnic identities that the term Scythia was gradually erased from official maps, systematically replaced by new labels more closely aligned with burgeoning modern nation-states. Another sensitive reason why Scythia is often deliberately downplayed in modern education lies in its intriguing connections to European secret societies. In the cryptic manuscripts of the Rosicrucians and other esoteric groups of the 17th and 18th centuries, the Scythians were described as direct descendants of an ancient northern lineage of profound knowledge, believed to safeguard secrets about the cosmos, natural energies, and ancient medicine. These very writings, once explicitly banned by the powerful Catholic Church, further contributed to the systematic suppression of Scythia's deeper and more complex historical image. Today, with the vibrant flourishing of steppe archaeology, new and groundbreaking discoveries in Kazakhstan, the Altai Mountains, and the regions surrounding the Black Sea continue to unveil a Scythia far more sophisticated and culturally vibrant than the simplistic narrative imposed by earlier powers. Yet, these profound revelations also fuel intense debates regarding Scythia's true and rightful place in the grand tapestry of human history. The compelling story of Scythia serves as a potent reminder that the enduring existence of a civilization is not always honestly reflected in the carefully curated pages of official history. Sometimes, what truly remains are hidden currents embedded within finely worked gold, etched into ancient tattoos, or preserved within legends once summarily dismissed as mere tales of nomads. And at times, it is precisely this deliberate act of forgetting that most clearly reflects the intricate conspiracies and audacious power plays that perpetually shape the official records of humanity. Sogdiana, the Silk Road's erased crossroads of knowledge. Along the ancient Silk Road, a colossal trade network that intricately connected East and West for thousands of years, there once resonated a name that symbolized profound knowledge, exquisite art, enlightened openness, and unparalleled prosperity. That revered name was Sogdiana. Yet, curiously, today it has almost entirely vanished from the official currents of history, surviving only in scattered, highly specialized texts rarely encountered by the general public. This raises a crucial and pressing question. Why has a civilization that once stood at the very heart of the greatest exchange network of the ancient world, playing a pivotal role in disseminating ideas and technologies on a global scale, been systematically pushed into such profound obscurity? And what aspects within Sogdiana's rich history compelled certain powers to be so determined to blur or outright erase the very memory of this remarkable land? Sogdiana, also known as Sogd or Sogdia, encompassed a fertile region nestled between the Zarafshan and Kashkadarya river basins in what is now modern Uzbekistan and Tajikistan. At its zenith, spanning from the 6th century BC to the 10th century CE, Sogdiana stood as one of the most vital centers of trade, culture, and profound learning along the fabled Silk Road. Boasting flourishing cities like Samarkand, Bokhara, and Panjshir. Unlike many civilizations defined by conquest or rigidly enforced national borders, Sogdiana cultivated a unique culture of exchange, where merchants, scholars, artists, and adherents of diverse faiths converged and interacted freely. The Sogdians transported not only luxurious silk, exotic spices, and precious gemstones, but also invaluable ideas, sacred books, groundbreaking technologies, and profound knowledge from every corner of the ancient world. Remarkably, for centuries, the Sogdians served as the silent yet indispensable couriers of knowledge. They meticulously copied and faithfully transmitted mathematical and astronomical texts from distant India, medical works from the sophisticated Persian Empire, Buddhist scriptures from imperial China, and mystical writings from various Jewish and Eastern Christian communities. Many invaluable manuscripts that eventually reached Europe via the Arab world had, at some point in their long journey, passed through diligent Sogdian hands. For this very reason, Sogdiana was far more than a mere trading hub. It was, in essence, a crucial crossroads for forbidden knowledge. In secluded monasteries and within the secretive guilds of Sogdian merchants, books that were strictly banned in both the East and the West were clandestinely copied and meticulously preserved. Many modern scholars now firmly believe that without these intricate Sogdian channels, much ancient knowledge would never have escaped the rigid and pervasive censorship imposed by powerful empires. However, this pivotal role also rendered Sogdiana a formidable threat in the discerning eyes of political and religious powers. As empires relentlessly expanded, they sought to control not merely territory but also the vital flow of information and knowledge. An independent merchant community, unfettered by rigid dogmas and serving as a vital conduit for dangerous and subversive ideas, was something those entrenched powers simply could not tolerate. This compellingly explains why, from the 10th century onward, as Orthodox Islamic dynasties solidified their power across Central Asia, Sogdian cities were systematically attacked and ruthlessly suppressed. Private libraries were mercilessly burned, invaluable manuscripts seized, and scholars either executed or forcibly exiled. Scattered Sogdian communities managed to survive in remote oases, but the vibrant brilliance of a civilization that had once illuminated the Silk Road began its inexorable fade. Concurrently, in the official histories compiled by these new dynasties, the very name Sogdiana was gradually and deliberately expunged. Islamic chronicles of the 11th and 12th centuries barely mentioned Sogdiana as a significant center of knowledge. In the West, as Arabic translations flowed into medieval Europe, the crucial role of the Sogdians in transmitting knowledge was deliberately downplayed in favor of highlighting prominent Islamic centers like Baghdad. Thus, well into the 20th century, the name Sogdiana appeared only in specialized archaeological studies or in the writings of a select few dedicated Orientalists. A civilization that had played an undeniably vital role in maintaining the intercontinental flow of knowledge was systematically pushed into the deep shadows of history. Today, with groundbreaking new archaeological discoveries at Panjshir, Samarkand, and Bokhara, we are beginning to gain a much deeper understanding of the profound cultural and intellectual depth of the Sogdians. Exquisite wall paintings vividly depict scenes of merchants from incredibly diverse cultures. Inscriptions reveal a remarkable capacity to absorb and transform varied ideologies. And the burned remains of ancient libraries still bear silent testament to a golden age that was intentionally obscured. Sogdiana imparts a profound and invaluable lesson. In the grand narrative of history, it is not always those with the largest territories or the strongest armies who leave the most indelible mark. Sometimes it is the silent couriers, the small communities driven by an unyielding freedom of thought and an unquenchable passion for knowledge, who truly shape the very flow of human civilization. And perhaps it was precisely this quiet yet far-reaching influence that made certain powers so determined to erase Sogdiana's name from our collective memory. Ophir, the elusive kingdom of untold wealth. If Sogdiana was once a vibrant crossroads of profound knowledge, then Ophir, the mythical kingdom meticulously described in biblical texts, stood as an unparalleled symbol of unimaginable wealth. A name brimming with allure, where King Solomon's fabled fleets once majestically sailed across distant seas, returning laden with mountains of gold, precious ivory, and rare, exquisite treasures. Yet, paradoxically, to this very day, Ophir remains one of the most mysterious civilizations or destinations ever mentioned in both religious and historical records. The persistent question, where, precisely, was Ophir? And did it truly exist? Has perplexed scholars for centuries, sparking relentless efforts to obscure and deliberately downplay its intriguing story. Ophir first makes its captivating appearance in the Old Testament, specifically within the books of Kings and Chronicles. According to these venerable accounts, King Solomon, renowned globally for his unparalleled wisdom and unmatched wealth, dispatched mighty fleets in a strategic alliance with King Hiram of Tyre to seek out the legendary Ophir. After a daunting 3 years at sea, these ships returned with a staggering haul of gold, 420 talents, amounting to over 15 metric tons, an amount capable of profoundly shaking the very economy of any ancient kingdom. But Ophir was far more than a mere source of gold. The Bible vividly describes its fleets returning with silver, rare and exotic woods, sparkling gemstones, precious ivory, a variety of apes, and colorful, exotic birds, strongly suggesting that Ophir was a thriving and rich trading center, intricately connected to tropical regions far beyond the borders of Israel. As early as the Middle Ages, the true geographical location of Ophir evolved into one of the most tantalizing mysteries for explorers and theologians alike. Countless theories emerged, pointing to diverse locations such as the Arabian Peninsula, East Africa, India, and even the distant lands of Southeast Asia. Marco Polo himself harbored suspicions that Ophir might lie in what is now Sumatra or Malacca, regions widely known for their vibrant trade in precious woods and gold. Some 16th-century European maps even tentatively marked an uncertain Ophir, somewhere within the vast expanse of the Indian Ocean. Yet, what profoundly complicates the captivating story of Ophir is the undeniable interference of powerful political and religious forces during the zenith of the Catholic Church's authority. Precisely identifying Ophir was perceived as inherently dangerous. For if Ophir were definitively proven to lie beyond the confines of the Christian world, it would directly challenge the Eurocentric cosmology that the Church meticulously sought to maintain and uphold. Thus, in many medieval and Renaissance Bible translations, references to Ophir were deliberately shortened or left vaguely ambiguous. Some Latin editions of the Bible even completely omitted the detailed lists of exotic goods, deliberately circumventing any probing questions about ancient Israel's intricate links to foreign, unacknowledged civilizations. During the expansive age of exploration, Ophir once again became both a potent excuse for conquest and a significant source of intellectual controversy. The Portuguese, upon their occupation of East African ports, audaciously claimed to have discovered a new Ophir at Sofala in Mozambique, even erecting commemorative monuments to celebrate this supposed discovery. Yet, later historians conclusively revealed this to be mere propaganda, utterly lacking any convincing archaeological evidence. Conversely, some 19th century Orientalist scholars proposed that Ophir was, in fact, located in India, specifically the region of Tamil Nadu. This region boasts ancient traditions of gold mining, a thriving ivory trade, and the production of luxury goods that remarkably match the biblical descriptions. In fact, the very word Ophir may plausibly derive from the Tamil word, or, meaning artisans and traders of precious objects. Intriguingly, ancient Arab merchant records describe extensive voyages to gold-rich lands in the east, journeys lasting up to 3 years, a time frame strikingly mirroring the duration of King Solomon's legendary expeditions. Some chronicles even suggest that Arab traders once transported gold and exotic goods from Southeast Asia to the Middle East via long and arduous Indian Ocean trade routes. So, why does the compelling story of Ophir remain so stubbornly obscured? One key reason is that colonial powers and modern political forces have consistently shown little interest in acknowledging that Eastern civilizations were deeply and intrinsically linked to the ancient Near East. Admitting that ancient Israel's economy may have significantly depended on seaborne trade networks, predominantly controlled by Eastern merchants, would profoundly unsettle many established Western historical narratives. Moreover, in the 20th century, when archaeological surveys in East Africa, India, and Southeast Asia uncovered sites demonstrably tied to ancient gold trade, the publication of these findings was often restricted, to avoid reigniting sensitive religious and political debates today. While no one can state with absolute certainty where Ophir was, one truth remains unequivocally clear. Ophir was far more than a mere geographical location. It was a powerful symbol of global connectivity in ancient times, a vital thread in the vast and intricate fabric of trade, culture, and knowledge, deliberately obscured for reasons both religious and political. And each time an ancient map is unrolled, or an Eastern artifact surfaces in a Middle Eastern tomb, the question of Ophir echoes once more, powerfully reminding us that history is brimming with untold pathways still patiently awaiting exploration. Zana Valley, the vanished empire of the Peruvian jungle. In the majestic expanse of South America, where the towering Andes Mountains embrace lush green valleys, and where the Amazon rainforest meticulously conceals almost every trace of ancient prehistory, countless stories remain profoundly untold. Among them, one of the greatest, though rarely mentioned, continues to deeply intrigue archaeologists and independent researchers alike. This is the compelling story of Zana Valley, a legendary valley where local traditions speak of a once prosperous empire, one that possessed an unparalleled level of knowledge and technology, far surpassing the rest of the continent in its time. Yet, almost every discernible trace of it has been buried, not only by the relentless march of time but also by powerful forces that adamantly oppose the rewriting of established history. Zana Valley, according to scattered accounts and deeply ingrained indigenous lore, lies nestled deep within the northern Peruvian jungle, near the modern border with Ecuador. As early as the 16th century, when Spanish expeditions bravely ventured into these uncharted lands in relentless pursuit of Inca gold, vague but persistent reports surfaced of an isolated valley, home to strange and imposing stone structures and a wealthy people living distinctly apart from all known civilizations. Conquistador Pedro Cieza de Leon once meticulously recorded in his journals hearing tales of a valley of stone walls and a river of gold, but unfortunately lacked the time to thoroughly investigate these tantalizing rumors. Jesuit missionary records, stemming from their extensive work in South America, also reference persistent rumors of Zana Valley. A report sent to the Vatican in 1609, now carefully housed in the Church's secret archives, described local accounts of a small but remarkably wealthy kingdom, renowned for its exceptional gold working and its expertise in crafting unusual alloys. Yet, within a mere few decades, all mentions of Zana Valley mysteriously vanished from such reports, as though an unspoken directive had abruptly halted all further exploration in that direction. The Chachapoyas people, famously known as the warriors of the clouds, who once inhabited this enigmatic region, meticulously preserved legends of an ancient kingdom hidden deep within a concealed valley, where powerful rulers constructed vast and awe-inspiring stone structures. Strikingly, the construction techniques described in these enduring tales remarkably resemble technologies that remain unexplained even today, echoing the profound mysteries of Sacsayhuaman and Machu Picchu. The 20th century marked a crucial turning point. In 1965, the Peruvian archaeologist Federico Kaufmann Doig led a pioneering expedition to the Zana Valley, where his team uncovered massive stone ruins, towering walls meticulously built from multi-ton blocks, bearing no discernible trace of metal tools. They also discovered mysterious underground corridors, strange and ritualistic altars, and fragments of alloyed objects containing platinum, a metal supposedly beyond the capabilities of ancient metallurgy to refine in its pure form. Yet, what rendered the story even more profoundly mysterious was the unsettling response from the authorities. Soon after these initial groundbreaking discoveries, excavations in Zana Valley were abruptly and inexplicably halted. The Peruvian government, citing vague reasons of environmental and cultural preservation, imposed a strict and unyielding ban on all unauthorized archaeological activity in the region. Independent researchers seeking access were either denied permits outright or became hopelessly entangled in complex and insurmountable bureaucratic barriers. Leaked internal reports from the Peruvian Institute of Archaeology ominously revealed that some findings in Zana Valley might profoundly challenge current prevailing theories regarding the development of pre-Inca civilizations. Radiocarbon dating of wooden materials recovered from subterranean structures yielded ages exceeding 3,000 years, strongly suggesting that these monumental constructions predated the Inca by millennia. Furthermore, in Jesuit archives in Lima, ancient manuscripts mention missionaries in the 17th century discovering inscriptions in Zana, written in a symbolic system not yet deciphered, and distinctly unlike the well-known Inca quipu. Some scholars now suspect this may represent a lost, ancient written language. What, then, truly happened to the enigmatic empire of Zana Valley? Could it have been an independent center of profound knowledge and bustling commerce, flourishing alongside known civilizations? And if so, why were its indelible traces so deliberately obscured? One compelling hypothesis suggests that Zana Valley once lay on an ancient trade route, intricately linking the Amazon with the Pacific coast. Its immense wealth and advanced metalwork may have posed a significant threat to both the Spanish conquerors and to the Inca rulers, who sought absolute and unchallenged control over the entire Andes region. Systematic efforts to suppress or destroy evidence of this civilization may have commenced during the colonial period and continued well into the 20th century. Today, Zana Valley remains one of South America's least explored archaeological regions. Modern expeditions face daunting challenges: rugged and unforgiving terrain, stringent conservation laws, and formidable bureaucratic hurdles. Yet, within independent research circles, Zana Valley has become a powerful symbol, a poignant reminder that stories lost deep within the dense forests may still hold profound secrets capable of reshaping our fundamental understanding of human history. And as the Amazon rainforest steadily recedes, each ruin, each fragile fragment unearthed in Zana Valley becomes ever more precious, like a final, whispered message from a civilization the world tried so desperately hard to forget. The lost city of Z, Amazon's hidden civilizations. Perhaps nowhere else on Earth holds as many profound secrets as the vast and enigmatic Amazon rainforest, a sprawling expanse of more than 5 million square kilometers, over 80% of which remains largely unexplored. For centuries, the Amazon was widely perceived as a blank canvas on the world's archaeological map. A wild and untamed land, believed to harbor only scattered tribes, with no advanced civilization ever having developed there. But was this apparent emptiness truly real? Or was it the insidious result of a history deliberately obscured? Among the Amazon's deepest and most enduring mysteries, one story stands out with compelling force: the legend of the lost city of Z. Throughout the 20th century, intrepid explorers risked their lives, and sometimes paid the ultimate price, in a relentless search for this fabled civilization. Yet, behind the romanticized dream of Z lies a deeper and more fundamental question. Could the Amazon once have been home to one or more complex prehistoric civilizations, thus profoundly contradicting the narrative long taught by mainstream history? The legend of Z is intrinsically linked to the renowned British explorer Colonel Percy Fawcett. In the early 20th century, Fawcett, an experienced surveyor with a keen eye for ancient maps and secret documents, stumbled upon an old manuscript in Rio de Janeiro's Royal Library, manuscript 512. This manuscript, attributed to an 18th-century Portuguese explorer, vividly described a stone city nestled deep within the dense rainforest, adorned with inscribed columns, colossal statues, and vast, imposing buildings. The details were far too precise to be dismissed as mere fantasy. Fawcett firmly believed the manuscript preserved the memory of a lost civilization, which he famously christened the Lost City of Z. But Fawcett was not the first to suggest that large civilizations once thrived in the Amazon. In accounts from 16th-century Spanish expeditions, Francisco de Orellana, the first European to navigate the mighty Amazon River, meticulously described encountering great cities, large and bustling populations, sophisticated agricultural systems, and powerful armies. Yet, when later expeditions returned, these cities seemed to have mysteriously vanished. The official explanation has long been that these communities collapsed due to European-born diseases. Yet, that theory does not fully account for reports of stone architecture or highly advanced agricultural systems. A bolder, and rarely discussed, hypothesis suggests that colonial authorities deliberately erased evidence of complex native civilizations to justify portraying the Amazon as an empty wilderness, ripe for exploitation. For decades, mainstream scholars summarily dismissed the idea of advanced Amazonian civilizations, citing the pervasive belief that rainforest soils were too poor to sustain large agricultural societies. But recent groundbreaking discoveries have completely transformed that view. Since the 2000s, with the advent of LiDAR, light detection and ranging technology, archaeologists have uncovered hundreds of massive geometric structures, intricate ditches, earthen walls, and circular or square foundations hundreds of meters across, ingeniously hidden beneath the dense forest canopy. These structures, thousands of years old, unequivocally required sophisticated social organization to construct. Additionally, the momentous discovery of terra preta, artificial nutrient-rich black soil, definitively proves that prehistoric Amazonians developed sustainable, large-scale agriculture, meticulously transforming rainforest soil to support thriving and populous communities. These regions now show compelling evidence of large agricultural settlements, a stark contrast to the long-held image of scattered hunter-gatherer bands. So, what exactly was Fawcett's City of Z? Many modern researchers now believe it may have been a composite memory, one of multiple great cities that once intricately dotted the Amazonian landscape. Some LiDAR maps have revealed vast networks of interconnected settlements, raised causeways linking communities in a manner strikingly similar to ancient urban complexes found elsewhere. Yet, strangely, despite this mounting and compelling evidence, large-scale excavations in the Amazon remain severely limited, hindered by difficult terrain, persistent political obstacles, and powerful economic interests. Acknowledging that the Amazon once hosted major civilizations could ignite widespread indigenous claims to cultural and territorial rights, a reality some governments and corporations prefer to meticulously avoid. Moreover, certain voices within mainstream archaeology still stubbornly cling to conservative views, reluctant to admit that South America's history may be far more complex and richly layered than textbooks have long portrayed. Meanwhile, indigenous legends steadfastly persist. Many Amazonian tribes narrate tales of ancestral cities, sacred places hidden deep within the impenetrable forest, where outsiders are strictly forbidden to tread. Some even assert that ancient guardians still protect these sacred cities, living in profound secrecy, far beyond the reach of the modern world. Today, as cutting-edge modern technology allows us to peer beneath the forest's verdant veil, we may be only just beginning to grasp the true scale and remarkable sophistication of the civilizations that once flourished in the Amazon. The lost city of Z may not be a singular metropolis, but rather a powerful symbol of an entire lost chapter of history, one that, when fully revealed, could compel us to rewrite our entire understanding of South America's profound past. The Pyramids of Giza, a timeless enigma. If there is one symbol that continues to utterly astonish the modern world while simultaneously baffling archaeologists and historians for centuries, it is, without doubt, the magnificent pyramids of Egypt. Massive stone blocks, stacked with astonishing precision. Secret chambers and intricate corridors aligned with an accuracy measured in mere thousandths of a millimeter. All stand as a timeless, unyielding challenge from the distant past. Who built them? And precisely how were they constructed? The official answer, that the pyramids, particularly the Great Pyramid of Giza, were constructed by the pharaohs of Egypt's 4th dynasty, has been rigorously taught in textbooks for generations. Yet, as deeper and more rigorous studies emerge, an increasing number of unresolved questions persistently linger within this established framework. First, there is the crucial issue of dating. While mainstream scholars confidently place the construction of the Great Pyramid around 2560 BC, during the reign of Pharaoh Khufu Cheops, geological and archaeological analyses provocatively suggest otherwise. Weathering patterns meticulously observed on the pyramid's surface appear to be the direct result of prolonged rainfall, a climatic phenomenon that has not occurred in Egypt since the Sahara underwent intense desertification more than 10,000 years ago. Boston University geologist Robert Schoch sent shockwaves through the academic world by meticulously analyzing erosion on the Sphinx and nearby stones at Giza, concluding that they had been worn down by rainwater rather than mere wind and sand. If this compelling observation is true, it would profoundly imply that at least the foundations or original structures of these monumental works predate Egypt's known dynasties, reaching back to a far more ancient, prehistoric era. Further complicating the narrative are the archaeological facts themselves. The blocks employed to construct the Great Pyramid averaged between 2.5 and 15 tons, with some interior stones weighing an astonishing over 70 tons. Transporting, precisely cutting, and assembling them with perfect precision, especially using Bronze Age tools, remains an utterly unsolved puzzle. Excavated tools discovered near the site simply do not match the extraordinary level of technology required to cut and meticulously polish such hard granite. Moreover, direct inscriptions from Pharaoh Khufu's time make almost no mention of pyramid construction, which is highly unusual for a culture renowned for meticulously recording its grand projects to glorify its kings. Another curious and profound element is the Great Pyramid's intricate internal structure. The precise arrangement of corridors, hidden chambers, and air shafts, meticulously aligned with specific star constellations, most notably the Orion Belt, intrinsically linked to the god Osiris, reflects an astonishing level of astronomical knowledge, far beyond what would have been necessary for a simple royal tomb. Researchers like Robert Bauval have compellingly demonstrated that the pyramid's central axis and the precise placement of the neighboring pyramids align perfectly with Orion's belt as it would have appeared in Egypt's ancient skies around 10,500 BC. Is this a mere coincidence, or compelling evidence that the builders possessed profound astronomical knowledge and possibly planned their colossal work in an epoch far older than mainstream history is willing to accept? There is also a subtler, yet more controversial, aspect, the potential connection to pre-dynastic civilizations. Many ancient Egyptian legends speak reverently of Zep-Tepi, the first time, an era when gods or mysterious visitors from afar imparted to humanity the profound arts of building, sophisticated astronomy, and a vast body of knowledge. While mainstream historians readily dismiss this as mere myth, Ancient records such as the Palermo stone and inscriptions at the Temple of Edfu mention dynasties that predated the pharaohs, with rulers reigning thousands of years before Egypt's first dynasty, raising deeply uncomfortable questions. Some independent scholars provocatively suggest that a highly advanced prehistoric civilization may once have flourished along the Nile, achieving remarkable levels of technical knowledge before succumbing to a climate catastrophe or a catastrophic geological upheaval. The Giza pyramids and the Sphinx, in this view, may be their enduring legacy, later adapted or reused by the ancient Egyptians, notably during the 19th and early 20th centuries. Many studies proposing the existence of a pre-dynastic civilization faced fierce and concerted opposition from mainstream academics and religious authorities. Acknowledging a highly advanced civilization existing before the biblical timeline threatened the deeply entrenched religious and cosmological beliefs of the era. Consequently, inconvenient archaeological evidence was sometimes conveniently overlooked, and alternative theories were frequently excluded from official academic publications. Even today, scholars who propose non-mainstream theories about the pyramid's true origins face considerable skepticism and resistance from conservative archaeological circles. Yet, the colossal stone walls stubbornly remain. The massive blocks still stand defiantly, defying the relentless march of time, bearing the silent, enigmatic marks of a past we may not yet fully comprehend. And perhaps the fundamental question, who truly built these great pyramids, will continue to stir curiosity and relentlessly challenge the boundaries of accepted history for generations yet to come. Göbekli Tepe, humanity's rewritten dawn of civilization. If the Egyptian pyramids compel us to question the technical mastery of ancient civilizations, then the astounding discovery of Göbekli Tepe, a massive stone complex buried for tens of thousands of years beneath the fertile soil of Turkey, has profoundly shaken the very foundations of traditional human history. For Göbekli Tepe, meticulously dated to over 12,000 years old, originates from an era when, according to mainstream history, humans were still scattered in small bands of hunter-gatherers, utterly unfamiliar with agriculture and far from capable of building complex societies, let alone sophisticated architecture. Who, then, built this extraordinary site? And why was it deliberately buried and forgotten for millennia? The captivating story began in 1994 when the eminent German archaeologist Klaus Schmidt and his dedicated team stumbled upon massive T-shaped stone pillars at a mound called Göbekli Tepe, near Şanlıurfa, Turkey. Initially classified as a Neolithic burial site, the startling truth soon stunned the entire archaeological world. Towering stone pillars, some reaching up to 6 meters tall and weighing between 10 and 20 tons, stood meticulously arranged in perfect concentric circles. Carved into their surfaces were remarkably detailed and intricate images: lions, snakes, birds, foxes, wild cattle, and other profound symbolic figures. Researchers swiftly realized this was no ordinary burial site, but an intricate ceremonial complex, perhaps the oldest temple yet known to humanity. Even more astonishing was its precise dating. Radiocarbon analysis conclusively showed that Göbekli Tepe was constructed around 9600 BC, during a period when, according to established historical narratives, civilization was not supposed to exist. This groundbreaking discovery fundamentally overturned the entire prevailing theory of human societal evolution. If history books were correct, only after humans settled down, domesticated plants and animals, and developed agriculture, could they conceivably construct such elaborate monuments. Yet, Göbekli Tepe unequivocally proves otherwise. Hunter-gatherer communities, or at least societies on the very cusp of civilization, possessed the capacity to organize large labor forces, transport massive stones, and meticulously design architectural and symbolic complexes of extraordinary sophistication. Who could have achieved such feats? This profound question continues to sharply divide the academic world. Some mainstream scholars reluctantly concede that hunter-gatherer societies may have been far more complex than previously thought. But many independent researchers raise deeper and more challenging questions. How could supposedly unsophisticated groups, demonstrably lacking advanced construction techniques and mechanical tools, move and assemble multi-ton stones with such astonishing precision? Moreover, the symbols and carvings at Göbekli Tepe appear to reflect a complex cosmology, imbued with advanced astronomical symbolism. Some researchers contend that the stone pillars were meticulously arranged to mark significant celestial events, solstices, equinoxes, and specific positions of star constellations. Astronomer Martin B. Sweatman and his colleagues have meticulously analyzed these symbols and proposed that they record a massive comet impact around 10,900 years ago, precisely coinciding with the onset of the Younger Dryas Ice Age. If this hypothesis holds true, then the builders of Göbekli Tepe were not merely skilled craftsmen but accomplished astronomers, possessing profound cosmic knowledge. Another enduring mystery surrounding Göbekli Tepe is why this entire complex was deliberately buried. Archaeologists discovered that Göbekli Tepe's circles had been carefully and intentionally filled in with earth and debris, a deliberate act, not merely the result of natural erosion. Such a massive and intentional burial required a collective effort of immense scale, prompting even more profound questions. Was this due to a major cultural upheaval, a devastating natural disaster, or a profound religious shift that compelled the builders to bury the site's memory? Or, as some theorists provocatively suggest, could the sudden transition from egalitarian hunter-gatherer societies to hierarchical agricultural ones have driven a deliberate erasure of older, sacred symbols? The deeper researchers delve, the clearer it becomes that Göbekli Tepe may not be unique. Ongoing LiDAR surveys and stratigraphic studies are revealing tantalizing traces of other similar sites across the Fertile Crescent, raising a staggering possibility. During an era when mainstream history confidently claims humanity was barely emerging from caves, a sophisticated network of ritual, architectural, and intellectual centers may have spanned this entire region. Yet, despite mounting and compelling evidence, Göbekli Tepe remains largely overlooked or only briefly mentioned in many national history textbooks. Perhaps this is because acknowledging its profound significance would necessitate rewriting our entire understanding of civilization's progress. And perhaps, as some independent scholars suspect, Göbekli Tepe hints at ancient layers of knowledge that long predate the civilizations we currently recognize. If recovered and fully understood, such knowledge could irrevocably transform how humanity views its own story. And that, perhaps, is something some powerful forces would prefer to meticulously prevent. Africa's erased grandeur. Great Zimbabwe and the Mali Empire. Among all the narratives of distorted history, perhaps no region of the world has suffered such systematic and egregious erasure as Africa. For centuries, from the dawn of the colonial era to the present day, the Western portrayal of Africa, and the version diligently taught in many textbooks, has often been deliberately reduced to the simplistic image of a land devoid of history, a vast expanse of primitive tribes locked in eternal chaos. Yet the profound truth, as we shall soon discover, is far more complex, far more magnificent, and far more awe-inspiring. Across this immense continent once flourished vibrant civilizations, mighty trade empires, illustrious centers of profound learning, and breathtaking stone cities that, for a myriad of reasons, were deliberately expunged from official historical records. Among them, two names stand out with resplendent clarity: Great Zimbabwe and the ancient Mali Empire. Let us commence with Great Zimbabwe, a name long shrouded in so-called mystery throughout the 19th and 20th centuries. When intrepid European explorers first arrived in the southern African highlands in the 19th century, they were utterly astonished to discover the ruins of a massive and intricately constructed stone complex. These were walls of unmortared stone, rising majestically up to 11 meters high, stretching for hundreds of meters in length, adorned with mysterious conical towers and intricately carved altars. The local people reverently called this place Zimbabwe, meaning House of Great Stone, from which the name Zimbabwe would later emerge. Yet, instead of acknowledging that local African peoples had once possessed the profound knowledge and remarkable skill to construct such marvels, European colonial powers, particularly during the zenith of the British Empire, worked tirelessly and relentlessly to deny this irrefutable fact. They audaciously put forth outlandish theories, attributing the magnificent structures to the ancient Phoenicians, the Arabs, and even long-lost civilizations from the Mediterranean. The underlying goal was unequivocally clear: to admit that the Shona and other Bantu peoples had once achieved such high levels of architectural and social sophistication would fundamentally undermine the very foundation of the colonial narrative, i.e., the self-serving, civilizing mission of the white man. For decades, colonial archaeologists were subjected to immense pressure to omit or deliberately distort any evidence linking Great Zimbabwe to its indigenous builders. Scholars such as Gertrude Cotton Thompson, who dared to publicly assert that the ruins were, in fact, the undeniable work of ancient African peoples, faced harsh criticism and professional isolation. Today, modern archaeological analysis has definitively and conclusively proven that Great Zimbabwe was indeed built by Bantu-speaking communities between the 11th and 15th centuries. Yet, an awkward and unsettling silence still pervades many Western textbooks. Centuries of deliberate denial have left an enduring legacy, a legacy of profound erasure. If the compelling story of Great Zimbabwe was meticulously rewritten to serve colonial aims, then the narrative of ancient Mali reveals another profound dimension: the hidden global influence of a powerful African empire. During the 13th and 14th centuries, while much of Europe languished in the intellectual depths of the Middle Ages, the Mali Empire stood as one of the wealthiest and most advanced nations in the entire world. Its illustrious capital, Timbuktu, was a grand and vibrant center of unparalleled scholarship and bustling commerce. The University of Sankore in Timbuktu attracted eminent scholars from across the entire Islamic world, where hundreds of thousands of invaluable manuscripts on mathematics, astronomy, medicine, philosophy, and law were meticulously copied and diligently studied. While Europe still struggled under the rigid strictures of religious orthodoxy, the erudite scholars of Timbuktu were actively engaged in discussions concerning precise planetary motions, advanced healing methods, and even intricate cosmological theories that would much later be rediscovered during the European Renaissance. But why do we so rarely hear of this remarkable story? Partly, it is due to the enduring colonial legacy. When France conquered West Africa in the late 19th century, it systematically worked to control and impoverish the rich intellectual heritage of Timbuktu. Many precious manuscripts were confiscated and transported to Paris or other European libraries. Some were tragically destroyed. This was a concerted effort to erase the profound memory of African intellectual brilliance. Moreover, acknowledging that Africa once housed great centers of knowledge directly challenged the dehumanizing image that colonial empires sought to meticulously maintain, and Africa portrayed as backward and perpetually in need of civilizing. Even today, in many mainstream history curricula across the West, ancient Mali and the resplendent legacy of Timbuktu are scarcely mentioned, if at all. Yet, the ancient manuscripts bravely endure. Hundreds of thousands of scrolls are still meticulously preserved by local communities, quietly, patiently, awaiting the day when their true and magnificent story may again be heard by the world. And increasingly, dedicated researchers are returning to study and painstakingly restore this hidden treasury of knowledge. The compelling stories of Great Zimbabwe and ancient Mali teach us this profound truth: that history is not solely about what transpired, but fundamentally about what is chosen to be remembered, and what is deliberately chosen to be forgotten. And in Africa, perhaps many such forgotten chapters still patiently await to be written more fairly and, ultimately, more truthfully. The Olmec civilization, Africa's footprint in ancient Americas? When we speak of pre-Columbian civilizations in the Americas, most individuals immediately envision the Maya, the Aztec, and the Inca, names that have rightfully entered both academic textbooks and the public imagination. Yet, few truly know that preceding all three of these celebrated civilizations there existed a mysterious and profound culture, widely considered the mother civilization of Mesoamerica. This was the enigmatic Olmec civilization, and at its very heart lies a mystery that remains utterly unsolved to this very day: the colossal stone heads, whose faces bear no resemblance to any known indigenous peoples of the Americas. These monumental stone heads, towering majestically up to 3 meters high and weighing anywhere from a staggering 6 to 50 tons, have been discovered at significant archaeological sites such as La Venta, San Lorenzo, and Tres Zapotes in what are now the Mexican states of Veracruz and Tabasco. Since their initial discovery in the early 20th century, they have profoundly puzzled archaeologists. Not merely for their immense size or exquisite craftsmanship, but for the striking facial features they meticulously portray. The Olmec heads unequivocally display characteristics that many scholars find impossible to ignore: broad noses, full lips, and high cheekbones, features uncommonly observed among known Native American populations. From the moment the first heads were unearthed, some daring researchers began to pose a bold and controversial question: could these colossal heads be compelling evidence of an ancient African presence in the Americas? That question has since become the focal point of intense academic debate, and a politically charged one at that. Independent researchers such as Ivan van Sertima, in his seminal book, They Came Before Columbus, have passionately argued that it is entirely possible there were transoceanic contacts between Africa and the Americas thousands of years before Columbus's arrival. Van Sertima and his staunch supporters meticulously point out that the features of the Olmec heads bear a strong and undeniable resemblance to West African groups, particularly the Mandinka peoples. In addition, they cite certain intriguing symbolic similarities, sophisticated metalwork techniques, and recurring mythological motifs that may well reflect faint echoes of ancient contact. Some archaeological sites have even yielded artifacts that could hint at foreign origins, though these provocative findings are often left unpublished due to their highly controversial nature. Of course, mainstream archaeology strongly and consistently rejects this audacious hypothesis. In their prevailing view, the Olmec heads represent an indigenous artistic style, and the so-called African features are merely a matter of subjective interpretation. They contend that there is no definitive genetic or archaeological evidence conclusively proving an African presence in the Americas prior to European exploration. Yet, what renders the story even more profoundly intriguing is how these debates have been meticulously controlled throughout the 20th century. Researchers who supported theories of pre-Columbian transoceanic contact faced significant and formidable barriers when attempting to publish their groundbreaking work in mainstream scientific journals. Many studies on ancient transoceanic exchange were either rejected outright or quietly excluded from major academic conferences. Some scholars provocatively suggest that this blanket denial is not purely academic or humble in its intent. There is a strong and pervasive desire to preserve a clean narrative of isolated development, in which the Americas' indigenous civilizations are portrayed as having evolved entirely independently of any outside influence. To acknowledge an early African presence, or that of any other external group, would necessitate rewriting major portions of global history, a formidable task fraught with political sensitivities and deeply ingrained, long-standing prejudices. Meanwhile, the Olmec culture itself presents other enduring enigmas. The civilization appears to have emerged almost suddenly around 1500 BCE, exhibiting high levels of artistry, sophisticated construction techniques, and complex social organization, yet with few clear signs of a gradual internal evolution preceding this sudden flourishing. Cities like La Venta reveal advanced urban planning, intricate ceremonial structures, and deeply layered belief systems. Moreover, many Olmec symbols bear curious similarities to ancient African iconography, ranging from geometric patterns and solar symbols to representations of sacred animals. Are these simply coincidences? Or are they faint, lingering traces of ancient transoceanic contact? traces we are not yet prepared to fully confront today? With remarkable advances in genetic science and material analysis. Perhaps in the near future, we may begin to uncover more definitive answers about the true origins and profound connections of the Olmec civilization. But for now, the colossal heads remain silent. Enigmatic, perpetually challenging the historical narratives that have endured for so long. And the profound question of the Olmecs, whether they were, in fact, ancient, black giants of the Americas, remains one of the greatest unresolved mysteries, not only of American archaeology but of the entire history of global civilization. The Library of Alexandria, the burning of knowledge. If there is any symbol that profoundly embodies forgotten knowledge, the irrevocably burned chapters of human history, it is none more fitting than the legendary Library of Alexandria. Even now, long after its physical existence has faded into the realm of legend, the very name, Alexandria, continues to stir the hearts of all who deeply cherish knowledge. For we know that in that hallowed place there once existed a vast and unparalleled treasury of wisdom that today's world can only wistfully dream of. Yet, what is spoken of less often, and perhaps with less comfort, is this: which parts of that immense knowledge were simply lost to time, and which parts were deliberately and meticulously erased? The Library of Alexandria was founded around the 3rd century BC, during the enlightened reign of Ptolemy Isoter or Ptolemy II Philadelphus. Its mission was both unequivocally clear and extraordinarily ambitious: to gather all the knowledge of the known world from every civilization into one centralized location. Ships arriving at the bustling port of Alexandria were formally required to surrender all books on board for copying, with the invaluable originals being meticulously kept for the library's collection. Envoys were dispatched across the known world, from the intellectual hubs of Athens and Pergamum to as far as distant India, solely for the purpose of collecting scrolls. At its zenith, the Library of Alexandria is believed to have housed between 400,000 and perhaps as many as 700,000 papyrus scrolls, an astonishing number for any archive of the ancient world. But the ultimate fate of this magnificent library remains tragically shrouded in darkness and layers of historical fog. We know it was destroyed or suffered multiple devastating waves of destruction, but not precisely when or under what exact circumstances. The surviving records are contradictory. Some point to a great fire during Julius Caesar's campaign, others to the Arab conquests, still others to deliberate destruction by zealous Christian zealots, or perhaps, most realistically, a slow and agonizing accumulation of neglect, repeated conquests, and systematic, deliberate erasure. What is most noteworthy, however, is the widespread scholarly belief that the entire library was not burned in a single, cataclysmic event. Many scholars contend that large portions of the collection were intentionally removed, either before or during times of upheaval. So, what invaluable knowledge was truly lost, and what was purposefully made to disappear from the collective memory of humankind? First, it must be emphatically stressed that the Library of Alexandria was not merely an archive of Greek and Roman works. It contained a vast array of Egyptian texts, meticulous translations from Sanskrit, comprehensive Babylonian medical and astronomical records, sophisticated technical treatises from the Phoenicians, profound Zoroastrian religious writings, and invaluable materials from far-flung Eastern civilizations. Scattered accounts from ancient scholars such as Callimachus, Eratosthenes, and Ptolemy tantalizingly suggest the library held scrolls on advanced mechanical engineering, automated devices, revolutionary energy theories, and astronomical models far ahead of their time. There are even mentions of atomic theory, heliocentric models of the solar system, and intricate, advanced star maps. Some documents were rumored to describe ancient sea voyages, possibly even from Africa to the Americas. Records of advanced metallurgy, special alloys, and sophisticated methods of constructing monumental works such as the Egyptian pyramids may also have been present within its hallowed halls. More significantly, Many modern researchers strongly suspect that a large portion of the library's collection contained records of human history from prehistoric civilizations. Ancient myths passed down through countless generations. Some texts may even have included explicit references to lost civilizations such as Atlantis, Lemuria, or even unknown pre-dynastic cultures. But who would have benefited from erasing such profound knowledge? One widely discussed theory among independent scholars is this. When Christianity ascended to become the official religion of the Roman Empire, extremist factions within the Church were powerfully motivated to control the flow of knowledge. Any ideas that challenged theological doctrine or supported alternative cosmologies were immediately deemed dangerous and heretical. The systematic destruction of heretical texts or so-called magical works became widespread and pervasive. The Library of Alexandria, with its vast and diverse collection, presented an obvious and irresistible target. Later, when Arab forces conquered Egypt, some accounts suggest that what remained of the library's holdings underwent a careful and selective review. Texts deemed compatible with Islamic philosophy or possessing practical value were preserved. Those considered heretical or religiously problematic were summarily destroyed. So, what was truly and irrevocably lost? We do not know, and perhaps never will. But fragmentary records undeniably point to an immense and tragic loss. The Roman historian Aulus Gellius wrote that the scientific and technical works of ancient Egypt alone comprised tens of thousands of scrolls. Records of neighboring civilizations, Ethiopia, ancient Libya, Mesopotamia, were also present. Many modern scholars suspect that early records of long climate cycles, devastating asteroid impacts, and profound geological upheavals may have been irretrievably lost with the library. Such knowledge, if preserved, could help us better understand the cycles of destruction and renewal that have shaped human history. In addition, there is compelling reason to believe that advanced technical documents were among those meticulously stored at Alexandria. Descriptions of automated machines, steam power, and advanced mechanical principles appear in scattered accounts from the era of Heron of Alexandria, a brilliant scholar who once worked in the city. But the original models and detailed instructions have vanished without a trace. One final, haunting question remains. Could any fragments of the library's immense knowledge still miraculously survive? Some theories suggest that secretive monasteries, various Western esoteric societies, or even hidden archives in the Middle East may yet hold rare copies, but so far no public evidence has confirmed this tantalizing possibility. Whatever the truth, the long shadow of the Library of Alexandria continues to loom profoundly over the story of human knowledge, a bitter and enduring reminder that not all wisdom is passed down through generations, and that some crucial chapters of our history were burned, not by accident, but by the deliberate and guiding hand of power. Pre-Adamic civilizations. The Vatican's deepest secret. Among all stories of hidden history, perhaps none ignites deeper controversy, none is more profoundly unsettling to mainstream academia, and none is more quietly monitored by governments than the audacious idea of a pre-Adamic civilization, a civilization that may have flourished on Earth before modern humans, as described in the Bible, ever appeared. To many, this is an unthinkable and heretical concept, for it directly challenges some of humanity's oldest and most sacred religious foundations. Yet, what renders this story even more profoundly compelling is this. Many sources suggest that deep within the Vatican archives, the most heavily guarded collection of knowledge in the entire world, there exist ancient documents that speak of precisely this. The notion of pre-Adamic is far from new. Even as early as the Middle Ages, theologians and philosophers pondered whether intelligent beings may have existed before Adam, the first man according to Scripture. Church fathers such as Origen and even St. Augustine once contemplated the idea of prior ages of the world, referred to in mystical texts as secula priores. However, as the Christian Church solidified its official doctrine, Such ideas were systematically pushed to the margins and even explicitly branded as heresy. Yet, according to reports leaked by researchers with rare access to the Vatican's inner circles, not all ancient texts on this forbidden subject were destroyed. Some were quietly and meticulously preserved within a highly restricted section known as the Archivum Secretum Apostolicum Vaticanum, now officially designated as the Vatican Apostolic Archive. According to accounts from certain scholars who gained rare and fleeting access to the deeper layers of the Vatican archives, there exists a profound collection of manuscripts, largely written in ancient Greek, Coptic, and certain Eastern languages, that describe traditions of eras long before Adam's creation. In particular, among the group of documents intimately connected to Gnostic theology, long deemed heretical by the Church, there are vivid descriptions of successive cycles of creation, in which present humanity is only the fourth or fifth iteration. These pre-Adamic civilizations are said to have reached great heights of knowledge and advanced technology, but were ultimately destroyed through their own hubris or by cataclysmic cosmic events. Some texts even mention buried cities, machines far beyond human comprehension, and colossal stone pillars inscribed with enigmatic symbols that no one on earth can now decipher. But why are such documents so meticulously hidden and guarded? One obvious reason is that they directly contradict the Church's established account of human history. Admitting that civilizations predated Adam would not only undermine the fundamental concept of original sin but also profoundly challenge a theological structure that has stood for over 1,500 years. Furthermore, these manuscripts contain provocative and unsettling details regarding the very nature of humankind itself. Some describe pre-Adamic beings as not fully resembling modern humans, possibly taller, possessing different biological or spiritual characteristics. This raises unsettling questions about ancient species that may have once coexisted on Earth, an idea sensitive to both mainstream science and religious orthodoxy. It is also noteworthy that in the 19th century, as inconvenient archaeological discoveries began surfacing, such as extremely ancient stone tools and mysterious underground structures, some daring researchers linked these findings to the concept of pre-Adamic civilizations. Yet, most such research was swiftly marginalized or outright excluded from mainstream academic circles. According to certain sources from scholars who have worked within the Vatican archives, internal directives explicitly mandate that materials on this subject must be permanently archived, never copied or made public. Some key manuscripts are even said to be encrypted or cunningly concealed within unindexed collections. Beyond manuscripts, there are persistent rumors that the Vatican also holds artifacts allegedly linked to pre-Adamic civilizations. These mysterious objects have never been displayed publicly. Some reports describe stone tablets engraved with symbols from no known language and certain metal tools exhibiting a level of purity and craftsmanship far beyond what ancient technologies are thought capable of producing. Of course, the Vatican neither confirms nor denies the existence of these materials, and access to the most sensitive areas of the archives requires a level of clearance so exceptionally high that almost no scholar outside the inner church hierarchy can attain it. Yet, tantalizing clues continue to surface. Internal reports, testimonies from scholars who briefly glimpsed the manuscripts, and leaked correspondences within the theological research community all point to a striking conclusion. The Vatican holds documents powerfully suggesting that human history may be far more complex and multifaceted than the publicly accepted narrative. And if these sacred records were ever decoded and fully revealed, they would compel the world to fundamentally reconsider its entire understanding of the past, of our origins, of human nature, and of our true place in the cosmic flow of history. Until that momentous day comes, the story of a pre-Adamic civilization will remain one of the deepest and most profound secrets. Not only behind the formidable stone doors of the Vatican but within the very complacency of modern knowledge itself. The Piri Reis map, a cartographic enigma. Throughout the ceaseless flow of history, there exist ancient artifacts that astonish not merely for their inherent beauty or artistic value, but for the profound questions they provocatively pose about humanity's distant past. One such object, perhaps one of the most enigmatic maps ever discovered, is the Piri Reis map. Meticulously drawn in 1513 by the distinguished Turkish admiral and cartographer Piri Reis. This map is celebrated not only for its extraordinary accuracy but also for what it astonishingly depicts. Coastlines that should have been utterly impossible for people of that era to know. And it raises a profound question. Might there once have existed civilizations with advanced global exploration capabilities, whose knowledge was later tragically forgotten or deliberately concealed? Today, only a fragment of the original Piri Reis map remains. Discovered in 1929 in the archives of Istanbul's Topkapi Palace, the surviving portion clearly shows the western coasts of Africa, the eastern coast of South America, and most controversially, a part of Antarctica with intricate details that continue to baffle researchers. First, it must be stated that in 1513, Antarctica had not yet been officially discovered. It wasn't until 1820 that European expeditions first set foot on the icy continent. Yet, on the Piri Reis map, the southern polar region is depicted as a landmass with clearly drawn coastlines, notably free of ice. This startling discrepancy has led to many bold and audacious theories. One prominent researcher, Charles Hapgood, author of Maps of the Ancient Sea Kings, argued that the Piri Reis map may have been copied from much older sources, potentially dating to a time when Antarctica was not yet covered in thick ice. Hapgood cited geological studies suggesting that parts of Antarctica's Queen Maud Land coastline may have been ice-free around 6,000 years ago, or even earlier. If this is true, then to have drawn such precise details, ancient seafarers or cartographers must have possessed global exploration capabilities, something that mainstream history does not yet accept. Even in the map's own marginal notes, Piri Reis clearly states that he compiled it from very ancient source maps, including charts from the time of Alexander the Great, and even some maps copied from much earlier times. He described the complex process of assembling fragments of long-lost knowledge, meticulously preserved through generations of mariners. Another striking detail is the map's extraordinary accuracy regarding the coasts of South America and Africa. Compared to contemporary European maps, which still contained major geographical errors, Piri Reis's map displays coastlines with shapes and proportions remarkably close to modern standards. Many researchers argue that this astonishing level of precision could not have been achieved through mere coastal voyages and the rudimentary surveying techniques available in the Middle Ages. One theory posits that the original maps Piri Reis accessed may have employed advanced projection methods, something only civilizations with very high mathematical and astronomical knowledge could have accomplished. And so, the greatest question persistently remains unanswered. Where did those original maps truly come from? According to internal academic records from the Ottoman scholarly tradition, there are hints that the libraries of Constantinople, which had preserved many ancient manuscripts from the Byzantine Empire, were an important source of knowledge for Islamic scholars of the Renaissance. And Constantinople itself had once held a vast trove of Greek, Roman, Egyptian, and Phoenician documents. Independent researchers suggest that during the chaos following Constantinople's fall, some of these ancient charts and manuscripts fell into the hands of Muslim scholars, possibly including maps of lost or undiscovered continents. But which civilization originally created these enigmatic source maps remains a profound mystery. Some theories link them to the Phoenicians, master seafarers of the ancient world. Bolder hypotheses suggest they may trace back to prehistoric civilizations unrecognized by mainstream history, possibly connected to pre-Ice Age cultures. An intriguing fact is that after the Piri Reis map became widely known, certain ancient maps once held in European collections mysteriously vanished or became exceedingly difficult to access. Scholars working in the Vatican Library and old Venetian archives have reported that informal directives were issued, advising against publishing maps that could reignite heated debates about pre-Columbian maritime history. Thus, the compelling story of the Pyrie Reis map is not merely that of an ancient chart. It opens a profound doorway into fundamental questions about humanity's past, about whether globally connected civilizations may once have existed, of which we now glimpse only faint and tantalizing fragments. And when one gazes upon those meticulously drawn lines, those ice-free Antarctic coastlines, those remarkably precise South American shores, one cannot help but ask how much knowledge of Earth's true history has been hidden, irrevocably lost, or deliberately erased from the collective memory of humankind. Ancient alien contact, suppressed truths? Among all the narratives of hidden history, there is perhaps no subject more controversial, more profoundly unsettling to mainstream academia, and more quietly monitored by governments, than the audacious possibility that humankind may have once been in contact with beings from beyond this earth. And what renders this subject so compelling is that it is not confined to mere conspiracy theories or works of science fiction. Over the past several decades, a vast collection of books, meticulous research papers, archival records, and even government reports on this topic have been systematically suppressed from public release or restricted with extreme care. And when one meticulously traces the shadows of these suppressed materials, an astonishing and unsettling picture begins to emerge. It is possible that in the distant past, many ancient civilizations may have had profound encounters, or at least clear and enduring traditions, regarding beings not of this earth. Let us begin with the ancient records themselves. Across countless ancient cultures, from the venerable civilizations of Egypt, Mesopotamia, and India to the intricate societies of the Americas, there are recurring legends of gods who descended from the sky or wise teachers who arrived from the stars. In ancient Mesopotamia, clay tablets such as the Enuma Elis and the Sumerian king Lis speak of the Anunnaki, those who from the heavens came to earth, who allegedly guided humans in building the first cities and imparted to them the arts of agriculture and architecture. In Egypt, inscriptions at the Temple of Edfu describe beings capable of flight, riding in celestial vehicles, who originated from the land of the stars. In Indian culture, the epic Mahabharata and Ramayana recount in astonishing detail great battles involving Vimana, flying craft capable of traversing the atmosphere. Such stories appear with remarkable consistency around the world, to the point where many serious researchers now perceive them as far more than mere coincidence. What has made this subject particularly sensitive is that since the 20th century, modern authors began systematically compiling evidence, including physical artifacts, strongly suggesting that ancient civilizations may have indeed had contact with extraterrestrial intelligence. One of the first works to be banned or restricted in many countries was The Spaceships of Ezekiel, 1974, by NASA engineer Joseph F. Blumrich. This book meticulously analyzed descriptions in the biblical book of Ezekiel concerning the Lord's chariot, arguing that the technical details align strikingly with the structure of a spacecraft equipped with rocket engines and hover systems. Then came Chariots of the Gods? First published in 1968 by Eric von Daniken. This groundbreaking book compiled hundreds of cases from archaeology, ancient literature, and folklore, all of which could be more plausibly explained if one assumes that humans in antiquity had contact with extraterrestrial beings. Von Daniken argued that the Egyptian pyramids, the colossal Moai statues of Easter Island, the enigmatic Nazca lions of Peru, and countless other massive structures bear indelible marks of technology, or knowledge that the local civilizations of the time could not possibly have possessed on their own. The result was swift and decisive. Von Daniken's book was rapidly banned or severely restricted in many Western countries, including France, Italy, and Spain, under intense pressure from both academic and religious authorities. In the former Soviet Union, books on this sensitive subject were officially classified as prohibited for public circulation, on the grounds that they could undermine belief in the intellectual superiority of socialism. And the suppression did not cease with books. A large number of government reports on UFOs, now often referred to as UAPs, unidentified anomalous phenomena, were also classified as sensitive. Reports from the US Project Blue Book and documents from the British, French, and Canadian Defense Ministries contained numerous cases strongly suggesting encounters with flying objects and entities far beyond the scope of known human technology. The issue grew even more sensitive when some researchers began pointing to possible physical evidence of extraterrestrial technology in ancient history, not merely in myth but in tangible artifacts. So-called out-of-place artifacts, OPArts, include the Baghdad batteries, strange carvings in Abydos, Egypt, depicting objects remarkably resembling helicopters, submarines, and spacecraft, and crystals manufactured with techniques unknown in ancient times, all of which became topics heavily restricted in academic publishing. Many scholars attempting to publish papers on these phenomena in mainstream scientific journals were rejected outright, or simply labeled as unscientific. In some egregious cases, published papers were even controversially withdrawn after external pressure from unnamed organizations. But why is this subject so tightly controlled? One obvious reason is that acknowledging ancient contact with extraterrestrial intelligence would necessitate a complete and radical rewrite of human history. From the very origins of civilization to the development of science, such an admission would irrevocably shake the very foundations of many ideological systems, historical doctrines, and the entrenched authority of certain religious and political institutions. Another significant factor is that certain secretive groups, including national intelligence agencies and even long-standing secret societies, may wish to control this profound knowledge for strategic reasons. If extraterrestrial technology truly exists, or once existed, the power to access and harness such knowledge could profoundly reshape the global balance of power. Today, even as the subject is being opened slightly with recent releases of some U.S. government UAP reports, deeper research into the possibility of ancient extraterrestrial contact remains largely suppressed within mainstream academia. Modern, forbidden books on this subject continue to be marginalized, never included in official history or archaeology curricula. Yet, despite all concerted efforts to conceal it, the question persistently remains. And with every new, unexplained artifact, with each ancient text translated anew, the story of possible contact between ancient civilizations and extraterrestrial beings once again stirs humanity's deepest curiosity. Agartha and the Hollow Earth, hidden worlds below. Among the countless ancient legends of humanity, there is one compelling motif that persistently repeats itself across cultures from east to west: the captivating story of hidden worlds beneath the earth. The ancient Greeks spoke of Hades, the underworld. The Norse recounted tales of Svartalfheimr, the realm of dwarven craftsmen dwelling deep within the mountains. In India, legends tell of Patala, a subterranean kingdom inhabited by wise beings and mysterious creatures. Yet beyond these mythic tales lies an audacious idea that has captivated human imagination for centuries: the concept that beneath the Earth's surface there may exist actual advanced civilizations, thriving in vast, hidden spaces yet to be discovered. This is the profound legend of Agartha and the intriguing theory of the Hollow Earth. The concept of Agartha, sometimes rendered as Agartha or Agartha, gained more prominence in Western esoteric literature during the late 19th century, though its roots are undeniably far older. According to Tibetan and Indian traditions, Agartha is a mysterious kingdom located deep beneath the majestic Himalayas, intricately connected to the surface through vast networks of tunnels stretching across the entire world. It is believed that the inhabitants of Agartha, sometimes described as spiritual masters, sometimes as descendants of ancient civilizations, retreated underground to escape global cataclysms and humanity's endless, destructive wars. There, in their secluded subterranean realm, they continued to develop advanced knowledge and superior technology, isolated from the turmoil of the surface world. But how did this fascinating idea become so deeply rooted in modern consciousness? In part, it stems from the writings of intrepid explorers and profound mystics. In the late 19th century, French author Joseph-Alexandre Saint-Yves d'Alvedre published Mission de l'Inde in Europe, in which he described Agartha as the supreme center of wisdom, said to preserve the total knowledge of ancient humanity. Saint-Yves claimed to have made contact with representatives of this hidden kingdom through mystical rites. Later, the renowned Russian explorer Nicholas Roerich, who led extensive expeditions across Central Asia, meticulously recorded similar legends heard from Tibetan lamas. In Roerich's notes, the lamas spoke of hidden gateways to the inner earth, radiant underground cities, and beings of transcendent knowledge. But perhaps what truly caused this legend to ignite in the modern imagination was its intriguing association with the concept of the hollow earth. This audacious idea is not new. As early as the 17th century, the celebrated astronomer Edmund Halley, famous for Halley's Comet, proposed that the Earth might contain hollow layers within its interior. By the 19th century, explorer John Clevis Sims Jr. further developed the hollow Earth theory, audaciously suggesting the existence of large openings at both poles. Sims even lobbied the U.S. Congress to fund an expedition to the Arctic in relentless search of an entrance to the inner Earth, though his earnest efforts were ultimately unsuccessful. Later works such as The Smoky God by Willis George Emerson, 1908, and Edidorpa by John Uri Lloyd continued to fuel the myth of civilizations existing beneath the Earth's crust. Curiously, during the 20th century, certain unexplained phenomena gave further life and credibility to these theories. Many pilots flying over the North and South Poles reported anomalous optical and magnetic phenomena. Some even described seeing green lands in regions where only ice should definitively exist. The most famous account comes from Admiral Richard E. Byrd, the celebrated American explorer who led expeditions to both the North and South Poles. In his personal diary, Byrd described a flight over the North Pole in 1947, during which he claimed to have seen ice-free lands, strange creatures, and artificial structures. Naturally, these highly unusual reports were officially denied or classified by the U.S. government. Byrd's full diary was never fully released, and the portions specifically relating to this Arctic experience remain the subject of intense controversy and speculation. Today, mainstream science completely rejects the hollow Earth theory in a literal sense, citing overwhelming seismic, gravitational, and magnetic evidence that simply does not support such a structure. But this unwavering scientific stance has not stopped persistent belief in a symbolic Agartha, or even the tantalizing possibility of a physical Agartha existing beneath geological layers that are still largely unexplored. Some modern researchers propose that even if there are no vast hollow cavities, there may well be immense natural cave systems intricately connecting various parts of the world. Cave systems like Hang Son Doong in Vietnam, large enough to house entire forests, or the vast underground complexes of Cappadocia and Derinkuyu in Turkey, unequivocally demonstrate that nature is fully capable of creating immense subterranean spaces. Could some of these hidden spaces once have been utilized by ancient civilizations? Or perhaps still be in use today? That is a profound question which remains tantalizingly unanswered. And like all great legends, it is precisely this silence, this impenetrable veil, and the scattered, inexplicable clues that keep the captivating story of Agartha and the hollow Earth vibrantly alive, as an unwritten chapter in humanity's hidden history. Metaphysical architecture, the lost principles of ancient builders. Among the greatest mysteries of human history, one profound question has consistently puzzled scholars, engineers, and lovers of the past alike. Why do so many ancient structures, from the majestic pyramids of Giza, the imposing Temple of Baalbek, and the sacred Machu Picchu, to megalithic astronomical observatories, exhibit such astonishing precision, unparalleled durability, and profound harmony that even with our advanced modern technology, many of their intricate details remain impossible to fully replicate? Could it be that the ancients relied solely on arduous experience and brute manual labor? Or did they, in fact, possess forms of knowledge that fundamentally transcended ordinary engineering, a profound understanding that intricately combined physics, mathematics, astronomy, and deeper universal principles that we are only now beginning to painstakingly rediscover? This compelling question leads us into a very special and often overlooked domain: metaphysical building knowledge. Once widely prevalent in ancient civilizations, this knowledge is now largely lost or meticulously hidden within esoteric traditions, forbidden books, and the secretive teachings of various secret societies. Let us begin with the clearest and most undeniable evidence: the very structures that still stand proudly today. The Great Pyramid of Giza, with its multi-ton stone blocks fitted together with tolerances of mere fractions of a millimeter, is not only an engineering marvel. Its precise orientation and form encode remarkably advanced astronomical knowledge. The three Great Pyramids are aligned precisely with Orion's belt, corresponding to the three stars of the belt, which in ancient Egyptian belief represented the revered god Osiris. The angles of the pyramid faces and the ratio of height to base perimeter are directly linked to fundamental mathematical constants such as pi, and phi, the golden ratio. How the ancient Egyptians precisely arrived at these values remains unknown. Their surviving mathematical texts offer no clear explanation. The Temple of Baalbek in Lebanon presents an even greater challenge to modern understanding. Its colossal trilithon blocks, each weighing between an astounding 800 and 1,200 tons, surpass anything modern cranes are capable of lifting. These monolithic stones are not only immense but are also perfectly fitted upon a foundation with such meticulous precision that a razor blade cannot slip between them. At Machu Picchu and Sacsayhuaman, the Inca perfected an ingenious earthquake-resistant stone joining technique, utilizing irregularly shaped stones that fit together seamlessly without the use of mortar. After thousands of years in one of Earth's most seismically active regions, these walls remain perfectly stable and unyielding. All of these remarkable structures share a common, profound trait: they were not built solely for practical or ceremonial purposes. Recent studies compellingly suggest that they were constructed according to principles that harmonize with the Earth's energy fields, with precise astronomical cycles, and perhaps even with resonant frequencies that modern science is only just beginning to explore. What profound metaphysical knowledge did the ancients apply? And why was it so tragically lost? Many independent researchers and some scholars within esoteric circles firmly believe that ancient civilizations possessed integrated systems of knowledge where mathematics, sacred geometry, acoustics, and natural energy fields were intricately woven into the very fabric of their architectural arts. One clear example is the pervasive use of sacred geometry. From the pyramids of Egypt to the soaring Gothic cathedrals, from intricate Eastern mandalas to the enigmatic Stonehenge, patterns such as the golden ratio, the pentagram, and the Fibonacci spiral appear with astonishing consistency. These ratios are not merely aesthetic. They correspond to natural resonant frequencies, to human biofields, and to deeper physical phenomena. In Western esoteric traditions, particularly within secret societies such as the Freemasons and Rosicrucians, fragments of this knowledge have been meticulously preserved, though often cloaked in complex symbols and cryptic language rather than transmitted as direct technical instruction. The lost or forbidden materials of the past, particularly those from the Library of Alexandria and ancient monasteries, are believed to have contained detailed manuscripts on how to calculate the intersecting energy points on Earth's surface, akin to today's burgeoning concept of ley lines. Principles of acoustic resonance, meticulously employed to enhance the durability and spiritual effects of structures, were also reportedly known. Geometric and astronomical formulas for aligning architecture with key celestial events, and how to select and apply materials according to their precise resonant properties, explaining why certain stones were chosen for specific parts of pyramids and temples, were also part of this lost knowledge. Crucially, much of this profound knowledge is no longer openly taught. Since the Renaissance, as science became increasingly separated from spirituality and intuitive wisdom, such metaphysical insights were summarily dismissed as mere mysticism. no longer regarded as part of legitimate architectural science. In addition, religious authorities of the past had strong motives to suppress this knowledge, especially when it stemmed from pre-Christian or Eastern traditions, and was thus easily labeled heretical. Today, a handful of pioneering engineers and researchers are diligently working to rediscover these lost principles. Studies of ancient acoustics within pyramid ritual chambers, rigorous analyses of sacred geometries and their biological effects, and new investigations into geomagnetic wave patterns at ancient sites are revealing that the ancients may indeed have surpassed us in their profound ability to harmonize matter with invisible energy fields. Yet, the path to fully reclaim this wisdom remains long and arduous. For the texts that once recorded it have mostly been lost, burned, or confined to forbidden archives. And until humanity is once again ready to bridge the profound gap between empirical science and intrinsic spirit, the secrets of metaphysical architecture may remain one of the darkest and most deeply hidden chapters in the long history of civilization. The Crusades' secret quest for ancient knowledge. When we contemplate the Crusades, what immediately comes to mind are vivid images of Christian armies sailing east to reclaim the Holy Land. Driven by intense religious fervor and the ambitious impulses of Western expansion. But few truly know that behind the bloody battles of the Crusades ran another, more secret stream, a parallel campaign rarely recorded in official histories. A vast and covert search for ancient knowledge and the lingering remnants of forgotten civilizations. And the most astonishing part is that many of the relics the Crusaders brought back were never publicly displayed in churches or museums. Instead, they were locked away in the most secret archives of the Vatican, accessible only to a chosen few. The first tantalizing hints of this hidden campaign do not originate from official historians, but from scattered records meticulously preserved in the documents of Western esoteric societies, especially certain secret branches of the Knights Templar, the most enigmatic order of the Crusades. According to internal records held by modern Templar research groups, as early as the 12th century, the Templars were engaged in far more than mere banking or guarding pilgrims, as the official histories would have us believe. They also conducted organized excavations beneath sacred sites in Jerusalem, most notably around the Temple Mount. Some recovered documents, translated from ancient texts once kept in Templar commanderies in France and Portugal, describe astonishing finds: stone tablets inscribed with an unknown language, possibly linked to pre-Judeo-Christian civilizations, manuscripts containing advanced technical and astronomical knowledge far beyond what medieval Europe possessed, and symbols and tools likely connected to profound Eastern mystical traditions. Most intriguing of all are the records of maps and vivid descriptions of lost ancient lands, which some researchers audaciously associate with legends of Atlantis or other prehistoric civilizations. But why were these invaluable treasures never made public? Herein lies the crux of the matter. According to indirect but compelling evidence, as the Templars grew too powerful and influential, the Vatican, pressured by the French crown and conservative forces within the Church, launched a ruthless campaign to destroy them. Yet, instead of obliterating the artifacts the Templars had meticulously gathered, many were seized and quietly transferred to the Vatican's secret archives. Records from the 14th century explicitly mention clandestine transports from fallen Templar monasteries to Rome. Some of these items are believed to have been sealed within the impenetrable underground vaults of the Vatican Library. Others may have fallen into the hands of various esoteric societies, where they were meticulously preserved in deep secrecy. Curiously, from the 15th century onward, waves of new and profound knowledge began to mysteriously appear in Europe, ranging from Hermetic philosophy to esoteric science and sacred geometry, the origins of which remain largely unexplained. Some scholars believe that the Templars, or their allied clandestine networks, quietly leaked portions of this knowledge, obtained in the East and from ancient relics. But the core knowledge, the materials concerning prehistoric civilizations, unparalleled architectural mastery, and profound metaphysical cosmology, is thought to have been meticulously locked away by the Vatican. These documents, if they truly exist and were ever made public, could fundamentally challenge the very pillars of Western religious doctrine, which explicitly rests on a view of human history commencing with the biblical creation. One indirect but powerful piece of evidence is that for centuries, the Vatican has consistently refused requests to open its archives to independent scholars. Even faithful Catholic academics are granted access only to carefully curated and pre-selected sections. The deep archives, where materials from the Crusader campaigns may well lie, remain strictly off-limits to almost all outside access. So, what did the Crusaders truly bring back from the East? We may never know for certain. But the remaining clues, from enigmatic symbols in ancient Templar churches to forbidden emblems, strongly suggest that beneath the visible Crusades ran a profound current of hidden knowledge, far richer and more complex than the official histories reveal. And until the Vatican, or some other entity, finally unlocks the great iron doors of these forbidden vaults, this haunting question will continue to plague all who yearn to truly understand the full, unvarnished history of humankind. Civilizations destroyed by design. The erased histories. In the vast and intricate canvas of human history, the inexorable rise and fall of civilizations is often simplistically portrayed as the inevitable result of natural forces. Devastating disasters, brutal wars, and ravaging plagues. These are the causes most frequently cited in official records. But there is another, far darker and more profoundly unsettling side to this story, seldom included in mainstream education. This is the chilling tale of civilizations that were not destroyed by the capricious hand of fate, but by the deliberate and malevolent will of forces lurking silently in the shadows. The pressing questions beg to be asked: why? And who wielded the destructive blade? To find the answers, we must look deeper into cases where the collapse of once great cultures was not the random hand of misfortune but the outcome of carefully orchestrated plans to erase knowledge, control history, and manipulate global power. One of the clearest and most egregious examples is the brutal destruction of the Cathar civilization in southern France during the 13th century. The Cathars, with their simple yet profound philosophy of life, their unwavering respect for spiritual freedom, and their meticulous preservation of ancient religious and medical knowledge, were perceived as a profound and existential threat by the Roman Catholic Church. The Albigensian Crusade was not merely a religious war. It was a systematic and merciless campaign to utterly obliterate an entire culture, to burn its sacred texts, to silence its teachers, and to eliminate all alternative streams of thought. When the fortress of Montségur finally fell in 1244, not only were thousands of innocent people burned alive, but countless precious manuscripts were also tragically reduced to ash. Who orchestrated this horrific act? Clearly, the Vatican, driven not only by the zealous defense of doctrine but by the deeper, more insidious aim of ensuring that no stream of knowledge outside its sanctioned control could ever take root or flourish. Another, even more subtle, example is the near-total erasure of indigenous knowledge in Central and South America following the European conquest. The Maya, Inca, and Aztec civilizations possessed highly advanced systems of mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and architecture. Yet, after the conquests, more than 99% of their invaluable written works were destroyed, mercilessly burned by Franciscan and Jesuit priests in the name of purifying heresy. Why? Because this knowledge not only clashed violently with Christian worldviews, it also fundamentally threatened the monopoly of European scholars. To control knowledge is to control power. And in many cases, destroying an entire civilization was perceived as the most efficient and ruthless way to achieve this absolute control. Another profound and unsettling example is the Harappan civilization of the Indus Valley. To this very day, archaeologists remain unable to fully explain why this highly advanced urban culture vanished so completely and mysteriously. Unorthodox sources, including manuscripts from certain Western esoteric orders, provocatively suggest that external forces may have intervened. seeking to prevent the widespread dissemination of Harappan metaphysical knowledge. Symbols found on Harappan pottery and architecture hint at a deep understanding of natural energies, sacred geometry, and acoustic resonance, knowledge that could have radically altered the consciousness of neighboring civilizations and even modern humanity had it survived. But who are the elusive forces behind such insidious schemes? Across the long expanse of history, a familiar and disturbing pattern relentlessly emerges. Entities seeking to control knowledge in order to concentrate power, be they vast empires, formidable religious institutions, or secretive organizations operating in the shadows. In the Middle Ages, the Vatican was a prime actor in this control. In more recent times, groups such as the Rosicrucians, the Freemasons, and powerful international financial elites have been accused of manipulating information, sometimes actively suppressing archaeological discoveries that could profoundly challenge the official historical narrative. Part of this is undoubtedly to safeguard existing power structures. But a deeper reason may lie in an ancient and pervasive fear that if humanity were to rediscover certain forgotten metaphysical truths, the delicate balance of power between elites and the general populace could be irreversibly upended. Thus, civilizations destroyed by design are not merely the unfortunate victims of war or imperial greed. They are, in fact, casualties of a centuries-long war to control humanity's collective memory. And even today, the fragmented remnants that remain, hidden manuscripts, buried artifacts, distorted legends, still whisper stories not yet fully told. Stories of a history that, perhaps, we are still not permitted to fully know. The cyclic nature of history, warnings from forbidden books. There is a profound truth that many scholars privately acknowledge, yet few dare to openly discuss. Within humanity's vast and intricate body of knowledge, there exist forbidden books. Not because they are baseless or unscientific, but precisely because they contain warnings too unsettling for the powers that be to tolerate. When these urgent warnings are peeled away, they reveal a chilling message. That history itself moves in inescapable cycles of rise and fall, light and shadow, wisdom and ignorance, repeating endlessly as though humanity is trapped within a hidden wheel few are conscious enough to perceive. And strikingly, in ancient forbidden texts, from Gnostic writings and Hermetic manuscripts to the works of philosophers cast out from mainstream thought, these dire warnings were clearly written for those willing to see. A classic example appears in the Corpus Hermeticum, that profound collection of mystical writings from the Greco-Egyptian world. In the Prophecy of Hermes, we read, "There shall come a time when men will forget their divine origin. Only the outward appearances of knowledge shall be honored while true wisdom is buried. Temples will be built without understanding of the divine. Science shall progress yet lack wisdom, and the world will spiral toward destruction through its own arrogance." That warning echoes as though it were spoken directly for our own turbulent age. In the forbidden Gnostic texts, explicitly banned by the Church for millennia, there exists the concept of the archons, symbolic entities representing insidious forces that manipulate human consciousness, causing humanity to forget its true nature and become hopelessly trapped in the cycles of material history. According to these texts, when humans become too enthralled with technology, too fragmented in their understanding, and too obsessed with hollow wars of ideology, that is precisely when the cycle resets. A brilliant civilization can tragically collapse, not from a lack of technology, but from losing the intrinsic harmony between knowledge and spirit. Even within the Hermetic manuscripts themselves, there are passages vividly describing that prior civilizations, unnamed, had fallen into precisely this trap. They achieved remarkable technological mastery, yet created tools of destruction far beyond their capacity to control. When the delicate balance was irrevocably broken, nature itself, often described as a deeper intelligence, restored order through cataclysmic catastrophe. Are we, in our modern world, now repeating that very same history? Signs are everywhere. As artificial intelligence, bioweapons, and mind control technologies advance toward unprecedented and terrifying heights, we also witness a simultaneous and alarming erosion of human values, inner knowledge, and genuine human connection. Notably, certain forbidden texts of the Middle Ages warned that every period of extreme technological brilliance carries the inherent risk of deep societal imbalance. When humankind hubristically believes it can replace the divine or nature with mere machines and cold, pure logic, that is the very moment when collapse silently begins. Another profound example lies within ancient alchemical writings. The alchemists were not merely seeking to transmute base metals into gold. They embedded deep philosophical insights about the very life cycle of civilizations. According to their teachings, any civilization passes through the phases of nigredo, darkness, albedo, rebirth, and rubedo, completion. But when this natural process is forcibly halted, when powerful structures seek to unnaturally freeze a civilization in the rubedo phase through rigid control or violent suppression, decay inevitably follows. In our modern world, with global networks of information control, rampant cultural homogenization, and resource dominance on a scale never before witnessed, we are in grave danger of falling into precisely that trap. Modern, forbidden literature, from studies on thought control technologies to reports on the inherent risks of runaway AI, demonstrably show that the cycle is closing faster than ever before. Yet, like the Gnostic manuscripts of old, these urgent warnings are meticulously kept on the fringes, deliberately excluded from mainstream discourse. Perhaps the bitterest truth is this: prior civilizations, Atlantis, if it truly existed, Sumer, ancient Egypt, the Maya, all seem to have followed these same perilous paths. Their remaining ruins, enigmatic inscriptions, and lingering oral legends all whisper of golden ages tragically lost, swept away by human arrogance and profound imbalance. Are we, then, destined to repeat their fate? As the ancient Hermetic sages profoundly stated, the answer depends entirely on whether we can learn the crucial lesson. But to learn, we must be free to access the knowledge, including that which is now forbidden or deliberately distorted. And perhaps in this turbulent age, actively seeking out the warnings contained in forbidden books and diligently listening to the profound wisdom of the past may be our last, precious chance to break free from the harsh, recurring cycle that human history seems stubbornly unable to escape. The enduring whisper of history. Perhaps the greatest danger is not when a civilization tragically collapses, but when its memory is systematically erased from our collective consciousness. For when memory is lost, so too are the invaluable lessons. And when the lessons are gone, the relentless cycle of history is given the fertile ground to begin once more, unchecked. The stories we have explored together, of buried civilizations, of forbidden books tragically burned, of hidden knowledge meticulously sealed away, and of urgent warnings deliberately obscured, these are not mere fragmented echoes of some distant past. They stand as powerful reminders that history, no matter how distorted or cunningly concealed, remains vibrantly alive. It whispers through folk legends, through profound symbols etched into ancient stone walls, through priceless manuscripts preserved in silent lineages. And above all, it lives in how we choose to remember, how we choose to retell, and how we choose to act today. For each time someone dares to ask, what lies beyond the official version of truth? That is a moment when a small, vital part of history's hidden light is rekindled. Each time a person reads a forbidden text, explores a forgotten civilization, or sits quietly before an ancient ruin, not hurriedly snapping a photo for the internet, but truly listening to the stones, the winds, the echoes of memory, in that sacred moment, the great wheel of ignorance slows, if only a little. But this is no easy task. For the powerful forces that seek to control memory remain strong and vigilant. They meticulously shape our education systems, dominate the pervasive media, and even subtly influence the very way we think about what history is meant to be. They would have us believe that stories existing outside the mainstream are mere conspiracies, that ancient knowledge is merely myth, and that nothing profound exists beyond the polished surface of the officially approved historical narrative. Yet you and I, having journeyed this far together, can intuitively sense a deeper and more profound truth. There are far too many intricate puzzle pieces that simply do not fit within the simplistic story we were taught. Far too many traces have been deliberately obscured. Far too many urgent warnings have been quietly ignored. And if we do not choose to speak of these profound stories, they may truly vanish forever. But history does not die, not as long as there are those willing to tell it, those willing to listen, and those willing to question everything. So, when you turn off this video, take a moment to look again at those old maps, those ancient statues, those faded pages you may have once glanced at without a second thought. Perhaps some small symbol, some forgotten mark, might lead you toward a new and exhilarating path of discovery. And when someone confidently tells you that history has only one version, simply smile. Because after this extraordinary journey, you now know that history is always layered, multidimensional, and vibrantly alive in hidden currents, patiently waiting for those who truly listen. If you find these kinds of topics worth reflecting on, I earnestly invite you to share your profound thoughts in the comments below. I would deeply love to read your insights and questions, for it is those very questions that keep this crucial conversation alive. And if you wish to continue exploring these forgotten corners of our past, feel free to subscribe to the channel. There are many more deep, thought-provoking stories still patiently waiting to be told. Because history does not truly die. It waits for someone to bring its light forth once more. And perhaps that someone is you.